Yeah.
So
Gaining on 25,000 followers, and then pretty much the only thing that I think he covers now is like Mexico Beach, Lynn Haven, and then if something big is going on with like Beach Drive.
yeah,
That's
I think most of his followers are probably purchased. I mean, that's one of the dirty little secrets in social media is you can purchase so many followers.
can you?
Oh, yeah. So I don't think most of his is real.
I wonder about that on a lot of different pages on social media because sometimes I just look up like a random person and it turns out like they're a public figure.
Yeah.
And they've got like 6,000 followers. And I'm like, I've lived here my entire life and I have no idea who you are. I'm not saying that I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like
Or
I
you
would know of
Or you
you.
just see somebody on social media that makes the absolute worst possible content and they've got 200,000 followers. It's like,
Yeah.
really?
I'll tell you a funny story. So the first thing that I ever got started with social media was I had a cooking show. It was a Disney cooking show. That was because when I got out of the Army, I finally got to spend time with my kids and my wife, and then we would go to Disney and we would hang out. And then I went to counseling. I was in counseling, and the therapist had said something really good to get my mind off of things from the past was to get good at something you're bad at. And I was like a horrible cook, and I didn't really know how to cook. So I was like,
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I started cooking, and then I was like, oh, video this and put this on YouTube. And then it actually turned out to be pretty good. I got followers and things like that. But then it always used to irritate me because I went out and I got good equipment, good camera equipment, good software to edit with. And I'd sit there and I'd spend hours and hours and hours putting together these this cooking show and making sure that I listed out all the ingredients and the amount. I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like just the whole video editing side of it. You put in like 12 hours into making like this 3-minute video.
Yep.
Throw it out there on YouTube, and like 2 weeks would go by and it's like 34 views. I'm like, how is this possible? Because there is a lady over here with no special equipment, just her phone, and she took Tyson chicken nuggets, put it in an air fryer, and was like, just wait 10 minutes, and then pulls it out.
And she's got 1 million
slaps it up,
views.
and she's got like 2 million views.
Yeah.
And I'm
insane.
like, all right, well, this will eventually catch on. It'll be a thing. The show went on for like 2.5 years, and I made over 60 episodes. I got up to 335 followers, and but that's organic versus. I mean, I didn't pay for ads.
Yeah, when you start purchasing that type of stuff and purchasing the algorithm, that's how these people get that stuff.
Do you spend money on advertisement with social media?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I also think that they fudge the numbers.
Oh yeah.
Because like YouTube, so like this, right? I think who was it that I had on? It was a pretty big interview. I think I had on like I can't remember. They were like, I had more people message me on Facebook saying like, good episode, whatever, or they listened to it, and I had like 20 or 30 messages. And I look over there and it's like, oh, it's only been viewed 15 times. I'm like, no, dude.
Yeah.
No, it's been viewed more than that because I've had more people comment back to me. So I don't know how they get their stats or whatever and all that, how that works. But anyway, you mainly on your show, you stick with national politics, it seems like.
A lot of national, a lot of state, and then trickle in on some of the big local stuff. So the only reason why I do that is because my audience has grown on the national and world stage so fast that when I start talking about local stuff, the messengers blow up saying, shut up, we don't care about that. It's like, okay, well, here we go.
Well, let's pick your brain on Ukraine because that's the most fresh thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched what happened
That was epic.
yesterday.
That was such a bitch slap. It was great.
Do you know Jeremy McSpadden?
Yeah.
So I've
He
never
makes some of the greatest memes ever.
I've never
Jesus Christ.
So, dude, I have never met this cat.
Oh, he's so much fun.
He came out with this stupid picture, and it's Stalinsky that's sitting there on the chair, and he's got his arms crossed, and he looks like a little kid.
Yeah, I saw that one.
And Trump and JD are sitting there like, it looks like they're talking down to him. And actually, I wasn't going to watch the interview. I was like, I don't care anything. But after I saw that, I was like, I got to watch it now.
Yeah.
So I went back and
pretty
watched
epic.
it. I was like, That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
They brought him in the Oval Office and they're like, hey, you're a disrespectful little brat. Go over there and get in the corner.
Yep.
Right? We're not giving you. But have you seen this? So I got up this morning and got on Facebook, and there are people, like conservatives on my Facebook, where they have a picture of the Ukraine flag as like their profile picture now. And they're like, I stand with Ukraine. And I'm like,
People are stupid.
what is going on? Because both of us, I mean, we don't understand why anybody would be defending the spending that is going on in Ukraine.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So my unit back in 2019 went to Ukraine, was training, they were training soldiers over there. They were doing like field problems and back then, I mean, I think a lot of us were like, why are we helping them out? And now what is blown up there, we all kind of like look at each other now and we're like,
Yeah.
that's what was going on.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing how we kind of knew that what was happening with Ukraine, I think, was coming. But Zelensky, he was like a stand-up comedian before he became president.
Yeah. He was a TV star,
Yeah.
TV comedian.
But what are your thoughts as far as Ukraine? And I mean, you think we're making the right decision by, like, we don't need to be involved with that shit.
The involvement we need to be in is just telling them to stop.
Yeah, which is what basically he said yesterday. Because it was like, hey, if you want to make a deal with Russia and stop the fighting, you know, that's what, you know, we'll help you with that, but we're not going to send you any more money to fight a war.
Yeah.
So
It's going to be interesting this week, I think.
why you say that?
Because of this mess with Ukraine and Zelensky, see where Trump ends up with it.
Where could it possibly
Well,
go?
I mean, he's playing both sides with trying to get the mineral rights deals, and that's kind of interesting to watch how that's coming about. And then with this mess with Zelensky, I wouldn't be least bit surprised if we don't see him resigning in the next week or two.
Zelensky?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, he got made fun of for not wearing a suit.
Yeah.
Well, it's being reported that Ukraine's trying to impeach him over this. And there's video footage of the Ukraine ambassador who was in the room, and she was like face palming as he was trying to talk.
That was awesome. She was like, oh, God.
I saw that Kendall has a picture of you didn't serve in the military.
No.
So whenever somebody knife hands you, things have pretty much escalated to the next level.
Even I know that.
Yeah. There's a picture of freaking JD where he's just like knife handing
it's the
him.
Marine.
And I was like, oh, dude.
Yeah, you
that
fucked
dude does
up.
not know that his life is about to
Change
like,
dramatically.
the outcome of your life is changing, but on a second-to-second notice.
Yeah.
So, but no, okay. So you're pretty much, there's really nothing to really cover there, I guess. We just don't need to give him any more money.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then,
just need to get in there and stop it.
And then the Epstein FBI files. Have you talked about that at all yet?
Yeah, what a dud.
Well,
It was exactly what I thought it was going to be.
so I don't know anything about it. So explain it to me.
There is nothing to know about it. They released the flight logs from his airplane.
I thought they already did that like years ago.
Yeah, sort of, kind of, but I think they released it more. And anybody that knows anything about private aviation, you know, people that have their own private airplanes are giving friends rides all the time, and people are always getting rides. So that list doesn't mean shit. You know, it's like, oh, Trump was on it. Yeah, so Trump and him were in the same media circle or social circles in New York City, and you know they've gone back and forth between Miami and New York City. Big deal. So isn't a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's like the thing you want to know about is who's been invited to the parties at the mansions, who's been invited to the island. You know, the actual flight logs is nothing. That's why they released just that. But then the New York field office with them covering things up, that's going to be an interesting part of the story.
And that's kind of what Ron's notes about is the letter Pam Bondi put out with the New York Southern District field office hiding thousands of files.
Yeah, what would be the point of hiding something that you know that would eventually come out? And it would definitely come out that you're hiding it.
I don't know.
A lot of these nerds, they think that like this stuff won't catch up with them, but there's too many eyes that are involved with this. If you're a politician right now, or even if you're working in any of these branches of government and you think that you're going to cover something up, there's too many eyes that have been seen on it for you to cover anything up nowadays.
That is, and there's too much of uncovering things as a mission right now. So it's probably one of the reasons for why the number one Google search a couple of weeks ago in Washington, D.C. was criminal defense attorneys.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing. The rats and the cockroaches are running scared. They know something's coming.
Well, and the thing about it is, and I think now Trump is a little bit more motivated to do it. I think in his first term, it was all about draining the swamp.
His first term, he didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
But
and
he
I
learned.
think now he had an extra 4 years to study. And now he's coming in and he's going, this is how we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And we're actually going to do what I said.
He doesn't need to be shown where the bathroom is this time. So he already knows all that, where the bodies are buried and who's in charge of what and what's going on. And he doesn't have the same snakes that are there with him. So
you having your show, I know that there has to be, it's humorous to me to see people that jump on social media so quickly, or even podcasts, and they talk about these types of things, and they watch one show, read one article, and then they become a freaking expert. How much research and time do you spend on a specific topic before you actually bring it up on your show?
A lot. I read multiple different sources of things before I really kind of chime in on it.
What are some of the sources that you use for where you get your info?
I'll do everything from Breitbart to Dan Bongino report to Al Jazeera to, the Daily Mail. I mean, I look at everything and, see the different articles. Sometimes I'll put in, a Google search for whatever the topic is and then read, multiple sources to see. And you can always see the spin. So it's like you look at it and you see the spin from article to article, and then you see some of the facts and details in there, and you're like, oh, okay, I see what's going on.
But you're also, so I'm conservative at heart, but I'm sure that you see it on both sides. It's not just one side.
Yeah.
I think that there's kind of like a huge disconnect in our country right now, to where, and I know you've seen this, where there are topics that come up that are, this is what the left is talking about, or this is what the right is talking about now. And if you don't necessarily agree with one topic, being on that conservative side, you're looked at as now an outcast of something, or that you're not conservative or Republican. And the same goes for the left as well.
Yep.
So we've seen these things happen over time, but when you come up on something where you're saying, you know what, this is a false narrative that is actually being spun by the right, do you point out those as well?
Oh, I do.
Oh, do you?
I call it out all the time. And then, of course, the hardcore people, they start messaging me on messengers and stuff and call me all kinds of names and say them. But it's like, you know what? Unfortunately, you got to call it out.
What's the worst one that's ever happened? At least a good one.
God.
I know that
where do you pick?
I get Karen mail too.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I don't know. Lately, I think the worst one has been, probably like the whole difference between transgender and drag shows, which is weird because, like, I've talked about how, the LGBT community, because the rest of the letters have been returned to the alphabet per executive order. That, the LGBT community, so much of it actually is conservative, but they don't talk about it. They don't get out and be like, hey, everybody, I'm a gay Republican. They just live their life. And it's this small minority that ends up being the loudmouth pain in the asses. And they kind of ruin an entire group of people. And, I get these things going, if you're gay, you're this. It's like, nah. There's a lot of conservatives on that side.
When we first moved back in 2020, Hurricane Michael had destroyed our townhouse, and so we had to kind of like build it back, and getting contractors to work on the house was just
nightmare.
Yeah, it was like pulling teeth. And so I remember there was one evening I was, I was pulling old insulation out of the framing of the walls. And so I'm taking it out and I'm making this big pile so I can get picked up by the city. And I had to have help because it was just getting so like overwhelming type thing. And so there was a guy that was standing out there and he saw me like doing all this by myself. Dude, it was bad. You know how like that insulation, and then there were bugs all over my face. And
and you're sweating. And
this guy, he literally came up to me and he says, hey, do you need any help? He asked, and because he could see me struggling like all afternoon, and I was like, man, I will buy you a 6-pack of beer. And he's like, man, yeah, me and my husband will come over. And so he said, me and my husband. And so I was like, okay. Nicest guys in the world, the most friendly dudes.
Never would have known if you didn't say it.
Never would have known that they were gay unless you said it, because they seemed like best friends. But in their backyard, they were flying a Trump flag. And it was Trump. Remember the flag where he has like the 240?
Yep.
And he's got all the rounds that are stacked around. And he's got the bandana on. They were flying that flag, I mean, high in their backyard. I was like, all right, I got to ask you guys something. You guys are Trump like fans? And he was like, yeah. Why wouldn't we be?
Yeah.
And they knew, because I was like, oh, you guys are gay. Like, and I just like, oh, it's just interesting. And they said, oh, you didn't think that we would support him because we're gay.
Yeah.
And he was like, actually, believe it or not, there's a large majority of us who, you know, they were big on gay rights back in the 80s and 90s and things like that, where it was, they just wanted to get married.
Right.
And he said now it's an indoctrination of like, they just want to change.
And as somebody who's been married and divorced, I don't care what your sexuality is. If you want to get involved in that mess, it's on you.
Yeah,
that should not be reserved to just straight people. Forget that.
Yeah, well, it's a weird thing. I don't understand the Biden administration. It almost feels like we were in an alternate universe. CERN was unleashed. We got sucked into a wormhole, because if you really think about what went on during his presidency, it's unreal.
Yeah.
It is unreal.
Yeah.
It's not.
Seemed like a weird dream.
Yeah.
Nightmare you just can't get up from.
And now people are against Trump for trying to change some of this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, the education system is because
That's an understatement.
yeah, they
And by plan. All by plan.
Yeah, how long do you think that they've been planning it out, though?
100 years, if not more.
But what is the overall goal?
The overall goal is to not have the American freedom and the American way of government, because it takes away from the one world order kind of narrative of the generation after generation of people who were in charge of things and had all the control. And now you're going to let the people make decisions. They hated it from the beginning. And generation after generation, they fought that. So I think that's really what it is. That whole American experiment, because it's not what's ever been done before. And it takes the power away from those one world order people.
So it's kind of spoken now that one world order stuff kind of falls under conservatives more than liberals.
I don't even know where it lands. It's kind of weird. I mean, it's no longer the tinfoil hat society. It's
well, what you're saying 10 years ago, people would have been like, oh, you're crazy.
Yeah.
And now that I think,
get up out of your mom's basement, shut your computer off. It was that type of stuff back then.
And people don't pay attention really what goes on around them as far as that goes. I mean,
people's lives are too busy.
Well, our kid, like my daughter is in basically K4 now. She's in K4, and they're starting them out as. And I'm not talking down on the teachers that she's around, but because I think that they're a little brainwashed a little bit. Mm-hmm. Where everything when you were a kid, what do they teach you how to do? Everything's about sharing. You share everything. Like you don't just have your toy; you share that toy with everybody else. Raise your hand before you got to go to the bathroom. Raise your hand before you want to speak. Raise your hand before you want to.
Obedience.
Obedience. It's really hammered into kids now, and I can't remember what it was. Scarlett came home from school about 2 weeks ago, maybe a week ago. She came home and like had said, "Oh, you know, I got in trouble today at school, Daddy." And I was like, "Oh, what happened?" She's like, "Well, I was playing, and she's like playing with a Barbie or a doll or something like that." And the teacher had come up and was like, "We share, like, blah, blah, blah." Like, so you need to let her play with the toy. And I was like, "No, if you had the toy first, no, yeah, you're not in trouble for that, sweetie." It's like, "Oh, what, sharing? Well, sharing is caring." And she's like repeating everything that like the teacher said. And I was like, in real life, we don't share things. I don't share your mom. I don't share my house. I don't share my car. That stuff's mine. So I will send you with your own toy tomorrow to school. And you put it in your backpack, and that's yours. You don't have to share it with anybody. And so it's kind of
So
funny.
when's the parent-teacher conference?
Yeah, exactly. Like when you started, you know, and I think their teachers know that I'm a very, very traditional men and traditional families, I feel like are under attack more than anything now.
Yeah.
It's really weird because if you are a masculine male who likes to shoot, run, work out, and then you are into cigars, bourbon, you're kind of like the enemy.
Yeah, you're toxic.
At the toxic masculinity.
We can't have any of that.
And then, but
Scary.
the government has I feel like they've had the majority of that, you know, that agenda, and they've pushed it through the school system to kind of.
Well, it's kind of the Marxist agenda with dividing the family. You know, 100, 200 years ago when they really did it, they would do everything they could get to get the kids to be separated from the parents, and they would, you know, tell the kids, you know, that, you know, you're this and your parents don't like this, and kids would be like, oh yeah, you know, and then it shows that the parents didn't like that, and the Marxists would come back and go, see, we told you, and they would divide the family, and they've done it here. You know, I mean, it's the Marxist agenda. They divided the black family. You know, prior to the 60s, 70s, the black family was tight and united. You're going all the way back to slavery days. And then all of a sudden it was divided. You're telling the men, oh, you don't need women. You don't need the family. Just go out and have fun. They did that. They divided that family. And then they infiltrated the higher learning education area, brainwashed all these teachers who eventually got disseminated out to the local smaller schools, and then that agenda. So yeah, it's all planned.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that Kendall and I talk about, because you kind of hit on that a little bit. We on the traditional side, even on that aspect of things, it's like, look, my wife has been part of like several of these like mommy and me groups, life groups, whatever. And of course, we're a traditional family. My wife stays home with the kids, and I go home or I go to work every day. I mean, that's how that works. It is my job to provide for my family. It is not my wife's job to do that. My wife's job is to make sure that my kids grow up and don't become murderers. I mean, that's really, and make sure that they become respectful, citizens of society. And
so when are you going to join the homeschool movement?
No, my wife is going to homeschool. Yeah, I think
it's a strong movement now.
We're letting Scarlett finish it out this year, but then after that, we're going straight to homeschool. With both.
A lot of great statistics on that out right now.
Yeah, well, not only that, they can start college earlier. And my buddy Sam Peebles, he's a
Sam.
That dude, when people were graduating from high school and getting their diploma, that dude had already had his AA. He already had a degree.
Right.
He was working on his bachelor's degree at 17, 18 years old. People weren't, people that want to talk bad about homeschool, oh, they don't get this. Yeah, you do. You still get out and you get to socialize and things like that. But he was, and so when you look at that aspect of it, my kids can actually get ahead by doing that as well. But I've lost all faith in the public school system 100%.
Yeah.
I don't trust any of them, not even the conservatives, because everybody has their agenda on the education system. But getting back to what I was saying, my wife has these friends that are part of these groups, and it's like, if I talk like that, where it's like, my job is to go to work, her job is to take care of the kids and make sure that, she's to build a home. I'm like now
you're a bad guy.
Sexist. Yeah. Oh man, it's bad too. Like some women have been over in my house, eating my food, drinking my liquor, have wanted to sit there and be like, and to my face, be like, oh, you're a sexist pig, and you know, and literally has said that to me, and then like, okay, like I don't get it. What's wrong with that? And women are being demonized for that now too.
Yeah,
it's hard for, you know, Kendall. I know I'm talking a lot, but Kendall, I mean, single guy, moved here after he got out of the Marine Corps. The type of women that society is spitting out now is like, I go to work, I'm an independent person, I don't need, you know how I know women, this, I might have to cut some of this out.
Edit button.
Women being independent. That's this huge thing. I'm independent. I can do this by myself. I don't need a man. I don't blah, blah.
That's great to a certain extent.
You know how I know you can't do everything that you say that you can do as a woman? Because I can't do everything as a man. Yeah. I have to have my wife takes care of so much. Without her,
like cooking,
life would be like finances. My wife pretty much has her hand in the finances. Because if I touch money, it's gone.
Right.
I just bought a green egg.
Maybe that's what I need then. Is I need a wife.
I just probably it helps. I just bought like another green egg yesterday.
I got another one.
Well, so I bought one a couple of years ago, and then I sold it, and then I got a Traeger, and then I got Blackstone. So now I have a Traeger and a Blackstone in my garage, and then I was like,
so she's there to help you with the indecisiveness.
Yeah, and then, you know, she holds me accountable like she did yesterday about spending more money on something that's like, this is unneeded. Like, and a lot of people get mad, like, my wife's always trying to tell me how I'm supposed to spend my money. And it's like, because you're doing stupid shit with it.
Yeah, that's why.
And so she, you know, so, but nowadays, like I said, that type of family dynamic is like unheard of.
Yeah.
Especially because now everybody is trying to conquer the world and have these power. Come on, yo, you're a lawyer and I'm a finance genius. Yeah. You go to work every day, I go to work every day, and then we'll have TV dinners and to come home to at night, and we'll figure the kid, the family, like people having kids is going down rapidly,
dramatically,
and it's because I believe it's because of this mindset.
It could be, yeah.
It's the mindset of, and then you also have most of your social media influencers that are out there right now. I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but what I see is people that are all about building, you know, money and empires and things like that, but nothing's really about trying to build a family dynamic.
Yeah, most of the media influencers, it's all fake. It's these people just living fake lives and trying to portray that they're something and they're really not. And it's like, I don't know if you know who Dean Withers is. He's one of the soy boys, the Harry Sisson and Chris Mowry. It's that little gang.
You know
I guess the giggles in the corner. He knows.
Yeah, as soon as you said Harry, I know.
Well, Dean Withers, he's the little blonde Twinkie boy of the group, and he was trying to portray that, you know, oh, he's so wealthy and all this other stuff, and he's that cocky, arrogant little thing that I don't know if you saw the God, who was it? It was somebody who did a whole college kind of question thing where they put everybody in the round circle and they came up and answered questions. But he's just a cocky little arrogant thing. And come to find out, the kid's so broke that he got kicked out of his parents' house, living with his brother. And then his brother wanted him kicked out because his brother's conservative and is tired of putting up with his shit. And he took to social media and made the mistake one day talking about, oh, I'm getting kicked out of my brother's house because of politics. And it's like, I thought you were all independently wealthy. What's going on here? So yeah, it's so fake.
Yeah, a lot of those things are, but then some of them have actually made money off of.
Oh yeah, you can make a ton of money off of it, and that's why they're so fake. They're so fake, and they ended up becoming rich because of their fakeness.
Yeah, and then so getting kind of off that because we talked about the family dynamic just going down the shitter.
This show's an ADHD show today.
I actually want to, before we go too far, when you were talking about what you do. Getting your sources, I kind of just wanted to ask you, since you've been doing this for a while, how that's changed over the years. I mean, especially with, it used to be kind of the 3 news channels and the papers, and then you kind of had the internet, but it was kind of just the same. And now that everyone has a phone, you're seeing all these independent things kind of bubble up to the surface where you can get things that would normally be swept under the rug.
I mean, when I started my career 35 years ago, it was the AP teletype. That's literally how you got all of your information. And you'd be walking down the hallway and all of a sudden you hear it starts printing out and you're like, oh, what's going on for news? And you'd walk into the teletype and rip it off and read it or throw it away, one of the two. Over the years, it's changed so much because it went to, more print stuff. And then, you started getting facsimiles that would come across. And now with social media, you get so much more information there. And the fact that there's so many news organizations now because of the simplicity of the internet. And sadly, it's amazing how much information you get today off of TikTok, which is crazy to think about that. There's obviously a lot of misinformation that's on there, but I can scroll through TikTok for 10, 15 minutes and come up with 30 different topics. And then all of a sudden you just go and do a little bit of research on it. And you're like, oh, well, that was accurate. This not so accurate. And then you find out more information about it. So social media does play a big role in, kind of opening the door to a lot of stuff. But then it makes you go and research it. And there's so many sources that you can find for research, and sadly, sometimes the foreign media has been more accurate than the American media.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, you can go to sites and they still have their bias, but sites like Al Jazeera, sometimes some of the UK news, Australian news, like Sky News, which is one of my favorites. And there's so many outlets like that actually tell you the truth because they don't care. They're just telling you like it is and how they see it. So it's one of these things where you really have to get a broad sense of what's going on, look at a lot of different things. But it's changed a lot. And again, TikTok is the craziest one that you find the amazing amount of accurate information.
Yeah, I think because I know exactly what you're talking about. I think it was really prevalent with the COVID years, but there was like a page that popped up on TikTok where it was just the SpongeBob news anchor fish telling real news. And this, people were making fun of it. And this girl kind of made a duet on it where it was, no, I have to explain to people that I get my news from the SpongeBob fish because it's usually more accurate, like you're saying, with foreign news.
Yeah, it's crazy because for some people they have no agenda. Some people they realize that there's a hole there, and they get out there and they fill it. And nowadays, since everything is online, every press conference is online. The entire activity in the Congress is all online. So if somebody's got the ability and the time to sit down for a second and watch this stuff, they can make a 3-minute video highlighting this stuff. So it's pretty crazy and insane how much it's changed.
Yeah, even like local government now, it's a lot more accessible to know what's going on just by hopping on social media. Because back in the day, back when I was growing up, you had to go to a city meeting. Yeah. You had to go to the county meetings.
Or you had to read the newspaper.
Nothing was recorded. Yep. Nothing was out there. And we take it for granted, too. I had a huge...
It makes you wonder the things that they got away with back then.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, now the stuff that they get caught doing all the time, it really makes you wonder what they got away with back then.
Yeah. Recently, this past week, there's actually a huge to-do that was made about this in Lynn Haven. So Lynn Haven had a meeting, I think it was like Wednesday evening or something like that, and people were just losing their minds and calling out Lynn Haven and, oh, they're corrupt, all the politicians up there, they're behind the closed doors. And it's like, just because they didn't live stream on Facebook, they still live streamed on YouTube.
Right.
Which... obviously, you don't need an account to watch something on YouTube. You need an account to watch something on Facebook. So actually, more people are able to watch YouTube than Facebook. Yep. Yeah, and so there was technical difficulties. 2 sitting commissioners the day before or before the meeting had put out a post and said, "Hey, there were technical difficulties. It's going to be live streamed on YouTube." And then people were just sitting there like, oh, they didn't stream it on Facebook. They're up to something. Everybody's corrupt. And blah, blah, blah. And so, but we're seeing this now to where if things aren't in plain view on every single platform,
Yeah.
then there must be something corrupt that is going on.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that like that meeting wasn't even, because again, it was live streamed.
Right.
Again, it's video recorded. You can go back and watch the recording anytime you want. And you can see exactly what was talked about. And there weren't these things that were happening. So, but I think now media has made it too easy for people to be freaking lazy.
Yeah, I have.
I mean, if something is important, you know, my dad, when I've been trying not to bring up my election because nobody wants to talk about how they lose. But
No, you kidding? I do it all the time. It's lessons learned.
But one of the things that I hammered really, 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 really hard on at the beginning of my campaign was the fact that the county commission meetings are held. It's like a Tuesday at 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
As if nobody
Who
has
can go to those?
Yeah, as if nobody has a job.
Right.
So you sit there and you say, "Oh, our local government," because I was part of the peanut gallery at the time, and I was kind of on this corruption kick, and I was like, "Yeah, I mean, they do it at 10:30 in the morning because they don't want you to know what's going on," and you know. But the more and more that I look at it, my dad kind of had stopped me the one day, and he had said, "Listen, man, if something's important to you, you'll be at that meeting."
Right.
But unless you're staying up to date on what's going on, like it keeps you to where you need to stay up to date. I actually don't agree with these meetings being. I don't believe that the public commentary should be live streamed
Yeah.
because I don't care what other people think. I literally don't. I want to know what's
right.
going on in the city. I want to know what's going on in the county. I could care less what your opinion are. I brought up to Vicky Gaynor, Jamie Warwick, and Sam Peebles. I had said you need to have public commentary on a separate night.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to the public commentary, though, one of the worst things is, you know, when you're ill-informed and you step up and then you kind of make a fool out of yourself and you just wasted 3 minutes of everybody's lives that you can't get back. Plus, there are certain people that like to go to different city meetings that you don't live in the city. So what the hell are you doing? It's like, stop wasting people's time.
That's the reason why they were trying to combat that. So Jamie Warwick in Lynn Haven was the original person that had brought up a sign-in sheet for people that were going to do public commentary that they sign in. And the reason why he wanted him to do it was so he could contact them afterwards after their public commentary because they don't really converse with the people that are doing public commentary right then and there. So they get your address and they get your phone number and they get your name. Now they know where you live and now they're taking notes on what's going on. So
It's a
they
conspiracy
can call
now.
you.
They're coming after me. The black van outside my house.
But people lost their mind probably a couple months ago and then started talking about how it was the mayor's idea and how this was to silence people you know, because if you don't sign in, you can't talk. And I was like, it's not to silence anybody. It was to make sure that your issue gets handled.
Right.
And I think we're seeing this a lot in the media now on both sides, both left and right, where people are always pointing the finger of corruption. And we had it from you know our side of the aisle at the Biden administration, which there's a lot of corruption that was going on there. It's kind of hard to not see that. But then when the left does it to the right, do we get upset? But sometimes they're right. Like there is corruption that is there, and things don't necessarily look on the up and up. But I think to immediately go to people who are all about corruption, especially in our local government.
You know, corruption has just become a go-to thing. If I don't know anything about it or if it just doesn't look right, it's corrupt. And, you know, there is obviously some shady stuff that goes on and some things that, you know, maybe a little bit of backdoor wheeling and dealing, but the level of corruption that is accused of, I don't think is there.
Yeah.
You know, there is some, but nowhere near to the level. And just because you don't see all the details of it, or, you know, you didn't get filled in on it completely, or, you know, something wasn't talked about 100%, doesn't make it corruption, you know. And in a small town like this, and this is one of the things I talk about when it comes to local politics, is that you're going to have deals where the council people, whether they're city council or the county commissioners or whatever, are going to be talking with a contractor or some business person about something because it's a small community.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. I mean, it's unavoidable. And these are going to be people that they grew up with. They're going to be people that they see in the same social circles because it's a small town. It's not like, you can expect everything to be completely, I just met this contractor because we live in, a population of 2 million people. We don't. We have X number of contractors here, and all the contractors know each other. All the politicians know the contractors. So it's like, it's not corruption. We live in a small town.
Yeah.
And they're going to talk with each other. They know each other, and they're going to obviously do deals with them because what's the option? You get somebody from outside of town. Well, then you're not taking care of the locals, and it's local employees and local business. So it's almost a no-win situation.
Yeah, we see it a lot. Well, speaking of that, I mean, you brought up both things, like contractor and politicians. That was the whole thing with Lynn Haven.
Yeah.
So the whole Margot Anderson thing.
Yeah.
I listened to her. I listened to the interview. I almost got through the whole book. I had to put it down. I'll probably go back to it and finish it. Like you said, if you don't understand something, it becomes corrupt.
Yep.
Or if you don't know all the ins and outs, it's corrupt. There's a lot of things that went on with that Lynn Haven thing.
Yeah.
To where you can't say that anybody was 100% honest, and you can't say that everybody was 100% on the up and up on what was going on.
Right.
And the book, I know that the book was supposed to kind of paint this image of painting like innocence all the way around, and it did not.
Yeah.
It actually did the opposite.
I haven't read it.
I had more confidence in that the mayor of Lynn Haven and her friends. I had more confidence that they were squeaky clean before I read the book. Mm-hmm. And then I read the book, and then I was like, okay. Now I have way more knowledge to work on, and I'm going. I don't think you were 100% squeaky clean on any of that.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much you followed that.
I followed it for a little while before I kind of saw. I saw a lot of the stuff that was optics that went wrong, and I saw. I think Margot Anderson, in a lot of ways, she fell into a trap accidentally. And then once she was in that trap, I think she accidentally kind of continued a little bit, but somebody probably should have said something. It was one of those, things you should have thought about that going, this probably doesn't look good. Taking plane rides with a friend who you've been doing for many years prior to becoming mayor, and then all of a sudden you continue to do it. It's the optics that doesn't look good, because then, again, small town, small community, limited number of businesses. You do a little bit of work with somebody, and then the corruption look makes it worse. And, do you get to a point where you do cross the line accidentally? So, I mean, the whole thing was kind of a mess. And I don't think that people had the best advice being given to them, which I think created an even bigger problem. And then I think there may have also been a case, too, of prosecutors that were eager to do what they really wanted to do, because you look at the prosecutors that brought the whole case to it with all the corruption and everything. And then once they kind of left their positions in the office, the new prosecutors came in and were like, all right, let's just finish this up. Let's get this cleaned up. We got other things to do. So there's a lot about it that just makes me go, I think there's a lot of errors, a lot of stupidity, a lot of accidental things, but I'm not sure how much of it was intentional corruption.
Yeah, that I think that's kind of like my thing on it. Again, so I've lived on especially coming from a military background, perception is everything. Mm-hmm. And I've heard
perception is reality. It's
well,
a great slogan.
It's funny is somebody after I put that on my Facebook during when I was running, it's like perception is everything, and they're like, no, perception is not reality. Perception is the way that, and it was like, for example, and I'll bring up the situation, and it's talked about in the book, and if you found let's remember that you're talking about the mayor of a city who goes through ethics training. It's not her first rodeo.
Right.
Like she's been through ethics training. She's been coached on what you should do for certain situations. As the mayor of a city, any sitting mayor, when something comes past your desk on any type of funding that goes missing or cash or anything like that, you know what to do because you've been told what to do. Yeah. Like you know what steps to take.
And not to mention you have city managers, city lawyers.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot more to it.
I think the argument there is, well, I don't know who all is part of this, who all is corrupt, so I'm going to go to the first person that I trust, which was a multimillionaire who lives in this freaking county who does business
with the city.
Yeah. And then, that was the whole reason, and if I have the story correct, I'm fairly certain I do, he had called the mayor and had said, hey, this is being built. This contract has gone out, and I never saw this. I never bid on this. Can you look into this for me? Mm-hmm. And then she goes and looks into it, and then finds out that there's corruption that's going on, money, whatever. And then you go to that same person and go, I don't know what to do. And was there anything corrupt that went on there? Maybe not. Maybe. I don't know. I know that it looks really bad.
Yeah. I still think that a lot of it was accidental corruption.
I think it was. I think like something like that was, it's a confidence issue. Mm-hmm. Margaret did a lot for the city. I mean, there are tons of things that she did do. She spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like that. She spent a lot of money, like a lot, a lot of the debt. Uh-huh. So when you look at that aspect of things. And things like that, I honestly believe that her heart was for the community,
right?
Which is why she spent a lot of money,
right?
But I think the confidence level of something happening and not knowing what to do, that's a perfect example of why it's good that she's not a mayor anymore.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have the confidence to go to the right people. If you want to know right now why any federal agency shoves a microscope up your ass, it's because you weren't transparent with them. Mm-hmm. Whether they're corrupt or not, if you're not transparent with the government, they don't give a shit.
Nope.
And she learned that lesson. And she's lucky to come off with what she did come off with. Because I honestly do believe that the house arrest thing and all that wasn't because of the evidence that you had. That was that they felt sorry for you. Because I think they saw the same thing that you're talking about, where it's like, I think you just didn't know what to do.
Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes with some of the elected leaders, they don't know any better. And again, that's the trap of the deep state, or the administrative state is probably a better way of saying it, because you have the administrative state everywhere. And when you have people that are running departments and that are handling this and handling that on whether it's the city level or the county level or the state level, those are people that have been there for longer than you have as the elected official. And they have a tendency to do way more of the corruption and bad stuff than the elected leaders. And the elected leaders just make those stupid mistakes and they fall into that trap and then get caught. And I think that's one of the big things we saw with Lynn Haven. I don't think she was completely on the free on it, but I think she fell into that trap.
Again, it's more of like my heart actually does go out to her because I do believe that she was kind of caught in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Then the pointing of the fingers at the police chief and the sheriff, and I mean, at that point, you're pointing fingers at everybody. Not everybody can be corrupt in the county, all right? Yeah. Listen, I know some law enforcement dudes around here that are the biggest freaking jerks in the world, and there is no doubt in my mind that they are horrible cops, but then I have two for every bad one.
Right.
So, I mean, and I know some guys that are really, really out to make a difference in the community, and they actually do want to help people. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there are two different types of people that are out there. It's the same thing with the military. A lot of people put these people up on pedestals, whether it's politicians, law enforcement, and everybody does it with the military. To where it's like, oh, everybody is just this saint that wanted to serve their country. Actually, no, not true. Yeah. I served in the United States. I mean, I served in the infantry, and there are some dudes that are in the infantry that, first of all, should have never been in the military. A, B, they're not there to serve their country. It's the only choice that they had.
Right.
And then C, a lot of those guys, to sign a piece of paper and say that you're going to go die and that you're going to take a job where your job is to annihilate our enemies at all costs, at any means necessary, you got to have a little bit of you got to be a little bit of a psychopath for that. So I mean, I'm just go jump out of an airplane strapped to the lowest funded parachute,
Right.
You know, like you're not quite.
Where do I go?
You're not quite right.
Yeah.
And so not everybody is a good guy in these positions that they sit in.
Yeah.
So, but that stuff being pointed out. But so I recently had Josh Street on, and he talked about how Doge was going to trickle down and actually affect local government.
Yeah.
Have you heard about this stuff?
Well, you know, the new buzzword now is efficiency. Like everybody now is jumping on this. And it doesn't matter if you're on the state level, county level, city level, everybody's going, ooh, we should do efficiency. Everything's efficient. It's like, first off, why the hell did it take Elon Musk and Donald Trump to get elected leaders to think the government should be efficient? I mean, this should have been a given a long time ago. So, yeah.
People are being let go left and right. They let a lot of people go that were in their probationary period from the government.
Yeah, which is a weird thing too, because, you know, sometimes when you think probationary, it's like, you know, oh, I just got my first job in government. Well, a lot of those things, people don't realize that it may be somebody who was the assistant chief of staff for Congressman XYZ, and that person just got a new job as the chief of staff for Congressman ABC. They're in a probationary period.
I don't think that those.
That's the type of. Those aren't the people that are affected, but that's just kind of an example of that. But there's a lot of that type of stuff that happened because, you know, government people, they have a tendency to shift from department to department, role to role. So those are a lot of the people that are being affected. And I've talked to some of my friends in Congress about it, and, you know, they're kind of upset about it because it's actually causing a lot of issues.
It is.
It's causing a lot. And there's going to be some backlash about it because there's not a lot of honesty and messaging, which, again, a lot of this is the Republicans' fault. Because while people are flipping out on the left right now, they fail to remember that Bill Clinton let 370-something thousand government employees go when he was president, and we haven't reached that number yet. So it's like, why was it okay for Bill Clinton? And at that time, it was a higher percentage of employees for the government than it is now. If you take 370,000 employees, that's a smaller percentage compared to the size of the government then. So why was it okay then and now it's a mess?
Yeah, it's affected us here. We've had a lot of people that are leaving NSWC here. It seems like they're just taking their retirement deals early. And
that's a good point on that too. It's not just the Washington.
Yeah.
You know, because everybody kind of goes, oh, well, all these jobs in Washington. Most of them are scattered around, like, you know, here in Panama City at the naval base or possibly at Tyndall or, you know, some of the other aries. So yeah, it's spread out all over the place.
Tyndall's building up. We're going to need more people out there. And right now didn't we hear that right, Kendall? The government is on like a hiring freeze right now for that.
Yeah, I think they're on a hiring freeze overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unsure about that.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I have that right. They're on a hiring freeze, which is not something that you want to be going into when you're creating one of the first bases that's been created in forever. Because Brian Granger, when he came on, he was explaining the Tyndall thing as being like, dude, like it's a big deal that they're rebuilding Tyndall.
Yeah.
And doing what they're doing with it because nobody else has gotten an approval like that in years and years and years. And so
even bases that we've built like in foreign countries are nothing compared to this. I mean, the high tech level of it and the mission that goes on.
Have you been out there to see what's going on?
I haven't been out in a few months, but I kind of keep up with a little bit. But, you know, a lot of people don't understand the missions that go on at Tyndall and how important it is.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal.
I mean, a lot of people don't realize that it's a huge part of NORAD and the air traffic control system. Like, you know, people don't realize, like, you remember the private jet that veered off course when they had a little problem on the plane and headed towards Washington. That was all monitored here.
Yep.
And people don't realize that. So, yeah, Tyndall's going to be a very important thing.
Yeah, and we had 35s and 22s.
No more 22s. I think it's just the
Yeah,
25s.
30,
Or 35s.
Just the 35s. Yeah, that's right. They did. That is crazy.
And
in
the
my
drones.
lifetime. In my lifetime, I got to see the F-22 come out and then be decommissioned.
Yeah, you're getting old.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm not getting old. But that is kind of crazy that I've seen that happen, because when I was in the military, we were still using freaking Blackhawks from forever ago. And
The A models.
What was the plane that you always talk about that should have been decommissioned? You and David always make that joke.
Oh, it's not a plane. It's the Huey, because David went in before me.
No, you can't get rid of the Huey.
And he turned wrenches for the Huey, and he had thought it had been decommissioned and replaced with the Osprey. I was like, no, those are separate missions. The Huey is still going. And we looked up the model number on it, and it's been going for so long, because people know it from all the Vietnam movies, that it's now in a hexadecimal. So it's not like the UH whatever Zulu. It's the UH Alpha Zulu whatever.
But they've ruined it because they've put 4 blades on it now, so it no longer makes that classic Huey sound. That whop 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 sound. So now that there's 4 blades on it, it's changed the sound to it. So that's my only gripe. I know it's more efficient, but that's my gripe.
Well, they just came out with a new, because I think they got rid of the UH-60s, right?
There's a new UH-60 that's out now, or whatever the designation is. Yeah, I mean they're coming out with new stuff all the time. So
yeah. But okay, so we talked about the Doge thing.
Yeah.
So do you overall you think that it's going to be good, or are we going to see more repercussions based on the research that you've done?
Yeah. Well, based on my research, yeah, I think it's going to be good. Based on what's coming out now, the New York Times just came out with a thing now saying that Elon Musk is not as effective as he is. And the left is now trying to push that, saving these millions of dollars is not actually saving money, which I'm very perplexed on this. I mean, I know that I'm not a math wizard, but I think that if you save hundreds of millions of dollars, that's still a savings and in a positive. And if it's billions of dollars, that's still a savings and that's a positive. So regardless to whether or not it's billions of dollars or millions of dollars or hundreds of millions, we're still saving money. And we're getting rid of some of this waste. But, the biggest thing about this that I think that people need to really pay attention to with Doge is not that we're just wasting this money, but the fact that Congress has allowed it to go for so long. And it's made them look so bad.
Yeah, dude, that is. But I mean, I've always made the joke about, the whole government spending. Dude, it's so funny, man.
Yeah.
Again, social media is one of those places where I have to turn it off because, I'm one of those types of people that I get bored or I'm sitting waiting to go into an appointment and I sit there and scroll through my stuff. All of these people that are making all these posts on social media, our government's been spending, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, this is not anything new.
Yeah, this is nothing new.
This is nothing new. I have witnessed, when I was in the military, some wasteful stuff.
Yeah.
Now, and even going.
Well, look what they've done over here at Tyndall for many years. You go over to Tyndall in December and they park jets just running to burn fuel. Because if they don't burn the fuel, then they don't get it next year.
They don't get the money next year.
What a ridiculous amount of waste that is. It's like, come up with a better way of handling that rather than just parking jets that, when you park the jets and run them, you're burning the fuel. Mm-hmm. But now you're burning time on the jets, which means maintenance on the jets, which is another expense. It's just stupid the way government spends money.
I literally, one of the first times I went to the range when I hit Fort Campbell, we had all this ammo at the ammo point. Everybody went out and they qualified, and then we were packing up. We were getting ready to go for the day, and it was around 5 o'clock in the evening time. So it's like, okay, it's about an hour walk back to the company, and so I'm getting my ruck on, and then all of a sudden, like, our first sergeant comes out and he starts screaming. He's like, I need all y'all guys out there. We got to go to this small little range that was off to the side from where the berms were at.
And just blow through ammo.
We literally picked up, so that was when the M17 had come out, which was the SIG.
Yep.
It had taken over the Beretta 9.
Yep.
And so the M9 Beretta. So we took these things out, and like all we did was trying to burn the polymer off. Like we were you're just putting rounds through these things and just shooting over and over and over again. And I made the joke. I was like, why are we shooting so many rounds? And then we pulled out a freaking M4, and then we started shooting 5.56 and like on fully automatic at these targets that were only like 20, 30 yards away. And I was like, yeah, are we all having fun? And the sun goes down and we're out there till almost freaking 9 o'clock at night, shooting up ammo. Then we got to go and we have to police call. I'm like, what was all this for? And literally, my platoon sergeant had explained it to me. He's like, if we don't burn up all this ammo, we won't get the same amount when we come back, and we're planning on adding more people to the company. And I was like, this is the dumbest thing in the world. We're like, oh, well, we could do that, or we could just count every single round that we didn't use and give that back to and then we're still screwed because we're not going to get the same amount of ammo back. Right. All of that, I don't know how many thousands of dollars that we wasted on ammunition just in that one day.
Yeah. I can actually attest to what you did, because I've been invited by military people to come out towards the end of the fiscal year to literally just blow through ammo.
Yeah.
I mean, the same thing range day. We probably thousands and thousands of rounds of ammo, everything from, we were shooting M60s on full auto to 9mm and 223s. And it's like, and same thing. And the person that invited me, told me the reason why. They're like, yeah, we got to get rid of this stuff. Otherwise we don't get it next year. And I'm like, but you've already got it. Just save it for next year. And it goes, doesn't work that way.
Yep. So I saw that part of spending. And then when I became I did a little bit of time as a PMC, I got to see the backside of the government spending as far as foreign stuff goes. And then when I came to NSWC on like expeditionary type projects, you're talking about a Vizio TV that you can go buy from Sam's Club, and you can purchase it for $500. And our what we're spending on it is like, what were those Vizios going for, man? They were like $3,000, and the case $5,000, and the case that the motherfucker came in was more.
Jesus.
The case was like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So you're saying this bitch is worth like $13,000 for a Vizio TV, and there's 9 of those things in a tent.
Yeah.
And you're like, so when it's always so funny because people are like, oh yeah, with the government and the high tech technology that they use and the amount of money that they spend on that. And I'm like, it's a Vizio TV.
Yeah.
It's not high tech. You can go buy one. And there was, the wasteful spending, but I think Doge is going to get away with a lot of that.
I hope so. I mean, a lot of people don't realize too that Doge is more advisory than it is anything, so they don't have the ability to do it. It's all going to boil down to Congress saying, yeah, we have to cut this. And Congress needs also.
Congress is still going to have to vote on.
Yeah, they control the purse strings. So I mean, Doge can stand out there and scream all they want about all this money that needs to be cut. See, they're already cutting things. They're turning the lights off on us.
What was that?
That happens in my show all the time.
Does it really?
Oh, yeah. The light comes off and you got to reach over and be like, hang on a second, we got. Yeah, it happens.
Having a technical issue.
Yeah. But it's all good. But yeah, Congress, they're still in charge of the purse strings. So they're the ones who are going to have to start looking at these agencies and say, hey, we didn't appropriate the money for that. I saw a report talking about the USAID, how more than 50% was all for administrative costs of their budget. It's like, how much fucking money are you spending on administrative? When 50% of your budget is going to that. It's ridiculous. And then
how much money? How much money?
Ridiculous amount. I don't even know the figure off the top of my head, but between that and then the wasteful stuff that we saw, which was not the 50% spent on administrative. So when you start talking about all these hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars that are being spent on other things, that's the other 50%. So yeah, it's time for Congress to really do their thing and crack down at it. I mean, look, we haven't had a balanced budget since like 95.
Yeah, that's what they were saying.
That's 2 generations of people that have not seen a balanced budget.
When did they say the last audit was? Was that night? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about an actual balanced budget of here's how the money that you had to spend, and it's balanced with what we have coming in for income. So you're over 30 years.
So that's something that people always say. So Clinton, I've heard this a million times. When Clinton was in office, we were in a surplus.
but it was the Republicans that were running the House, and Newt Gingrich was the Speaker of the House.
Well, was that true?
Yeah.
We were in a surplus?
Yeah. Yeah, we ended up getting a surplus after that. It didn't last very long because then, we had 9/11 that showed up and everything else, so that kind of went away. But yeah, it was the mid-90s when it was the last time that we actually had a balanced budget and things were coming out right.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah, because when you start talking about balance in a budget, surplus, and the negative, so what is the debt now?
As of the other day, it was like 36.6 trillion, something like that.
I remember when Obama was in office, and I used to listen to Mark Levin like every morning, and he was losing it one evening about how we were $17 trillion in debt.
Yeah.
And he was like, the world's coming to an end, and it's going to affect everybody. And we've still consistently racked that stuff up because Obama was like he's been the most...
He spent a lot.
He spent the most out of what we've seen so far.
But then we also have...
he spent triple what Bush did.
And then you have Donald Trump, who his last year in office, added, I forgot what it was like $3 or $4 trillion, and everybody's flipping out. It's like, yeah, but do you remember what happened? That wasn't, wasteful spending on Donald Trump's behalf. So they kind of wrongfully accuse him of that. But yeah, it's just this continuous climbing, and, it's not sustainable. And the people that are responsible for it would rather point fingers at each other than actually, spend money appropriately. With the amount of money that is out there, in wealth, and, that's about 70% of the wealth in America is actually in the hands of Democrats. And we see all of these stupid things like, binge drinking mice at a university in Columbia. Columbia is in the country, Columbia, not even like Columbia University here in America.
Yeah.
And we're spending millions of dollars to find out about how we can binge drink mice. How mice can binge drink. It's like, you can't find some multimillionaire that's looking for a tax break somewhere to say, hey, can I get $1 million to study if we can get mice drunk? Instead, we take it out of our tax dollars. It's stupid shit like that we waste money on, that you just wish that Congress would do. I hate reading bills because you see all of that stuff in there. So these people know it's there, and now they're all trying to play stupid.
Did you keep up on the bills that we voted on in this past election for the state of Florida?
As you guys were talking about the debt, I pulled up the U.S. debt clock. So we are currently 36.5 trillion in debt. That equals out to 107,000 per citizen, 323,000 per taxpayer, and then some of the ratios they have are the debt compared to the GDP ratio. So, like in 2000, the debt was 58% compared to GDP, and right now it's 123% compared to GDP.
I feel like if you bought your portion of the debt, that you should be relieved of paying taxes. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
Like, I really think
Right.
if I give you $107,000, no more taxes.
Yeah.
Because I've paid like my debt. They would have to find out a way to like lock it in. But I feel like that would be.
It's a mess. The bottom line, and I was listening to
So how far do we go before
we collapse?
Well, this is my thing on the debt, and this is coming from somebody that I don't have a political science degree. I don't know how freaking, but my whole thing is debt. They keep talking about the debt as if it's like this. I'm still trying to figure out, well, if we're borrowing money, when are they going to turn it off and say you can't borrow anymore?
You know who we borrow the most money from?
China?
No. Actually, China's the number 2 country that we owe money to. Foreign country. Japan's number 1.
Oh, Japan.
Japan, China, but the number 1 source that we owe money to, it'll probably piss you off. It's Americans. The vast majority of our debt is owed to Americans through the Treasury.
Okay, I'm stupid, so you're going to have to explain.
Is that because it's printed?
Yeah, a lot of it's printed, it's done with bonds and all this other stuff. So the money is actually borrowed from, the most of it is borrowed from us in the forms of the Treasury, the bonds, and all this other stuff. So that's who they owe the most money to.
Shouldn't that be kind of scary?
It should be very scary.
Like,
And the reason they can get away with it is because of the fact that the federal government is actually a corporation. It's not really a government. So that's how they can get away with all that. And
I've heard
people
this
need
stuff
to,
before.
Yeah, people really need to pay attention to this. And it needs to boil down to, stop the spending. Like the Republicans, and I'll call them out when they do something stupid, in this new budget resolution, not a budget, but a budget resolution. One of their things was raising the debt ceiling. No, don't raise the debt ceiling. Cut the spending. It's like you and I. If we, at the end of the month, have to pay our bills and we look at things and go, oh, crap, I need an extra $100. What are we going to do? We're not going to buy that steak. We're not going to go on that weekend trip. We're not going to do something. That's how that works. And in government, they're like, nope, we just need to raise the debt ceiling. No, stop borrowing the money. And these politicians are so stupid they don't get it. And unfortunately, most Americans don't understand how our government actually works. And they're robbing us blind. They owe us the money.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point on what you're talking about too, man, because there are a lot of people that don't understand it. Obviously, I don't understand that aspect.
Yeah.
I got to go back.
I mean, China, we only owe them, I want to say like $500 or $800 billion. Yeah.
We're not in like the trillions?
No, we're not even in the trillions. And I think,
wait.
and I think with China or Japan, the last time I looked at it, it was like, I don't know, $1.5 trillion or something like that we owed Japan.
So this whole stuff where people are like, oh, China's going to come back and they're going to repo our country.
Yeah. That's not real. No.
Yeah, no, there's no way, because that's a lot of money, but it's not on the grand scale of things, on the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot of money.
No. I mean, Doge has found more savings than China owes, or we owe China. So, yeah.
That way, have you heard about Kendall was the one that told me about the $5,000? $5,000?
The Doge dividend.
Oh, yeah. That's stupid. When they first came out with that, and look, I call Trump out when he does something stupid. That's stupid. I don't want you giving me $5,000. I mean, as great as it would be.
Dad.
I mean, if I was given the $5,000, I mean, it's not like I'd be like, oh, I can't use this, because I'm sure I could use it.
Yeah.
But I don't want it. I want you to save the money. I want you to stop spending money. And when your goal right now with Doge is to find the waste and the fraud and the abuse, and to turn around to give me $5,000 just because, no. I mean, I would rather you cut the spending, cut the debt, cut my taxes, because if you can do that, then I'm going to make a whole hell of a lot more than $5,000. I mean, you think about that. If you start making, everything cheaper, lower the taxes so the taxes aren't so much, how much money you're spending in taxes every year? Come on. I'd rather that than that one-time check. Just fix the problem. Don't put a Band-Aid on it.
I watched where the guy that came up with it and proposed it explained his reasoning for it, and I kind of agree more with it. At first, it was kind of like you said, yeah, well, cool, I get $5,000 because it's what? Out of every $5 they save, they want to give us $1, and then they'll send the check at $5.
And of course, it's only taxpayers, by the way. If you paid your taxes last year.
I know.
So if you didn't pay your taxes, you're not getting anything.
I was saying that to somebody because it also, Social Security, if you're living on Social Security, you don't get it or whatever. It's literally only for the working class tax.
But the idea was to make an incentive, because essentially, after Doge does their thing, they're going to kind of become the, like fraud, waste, and abuse that you see on bases. There's the flyers everywhere. So that's kind of what they want to go to for all government. And they want to do the dividend as a incentive to get people to report, to find more, especially since, any contractor, govy, or service member can tell you, like, if you actually see something and try and go report to the current fraud, waste, and abuse, they don't do anything with it. They're like, oh, cool. Well, I'm going to throw that in the trash.
Yeah. It almost seems like you remember when they did all those stimulus packages back when Bush was in office?
Yep.
I don't understand how stimulus packages work. This is my brief synopsis of it. People aren't spending money in the United States. We're going to put money into the United States to add more dollars that we printed, and you go spend it now? Isn't that I mean, that's kind of a redneck.
Yeah,
version
it's
of-
kind of one of those things of like starting a snowball at the top of a snow-covered hill and letting it roll and hoping it gets bigger and not fall apart. So if we give you, $5,000 to go spend as a stimulus, which is taxpayer dollars, tax collection, they're hoping that, you're going to go spend it on a business. That business is going to make money. It's going to tax more. The business is going to grow. And it's going to tax more. And hopefully the more that it goes down the hill, the more snow that it's going to pick up. So it's kind of one of those, there's a good chance that it could be a big snowball by the end. And it could also be a million pieces up on the hill. So it's kind of a risk to do those stimulus things. But again, my thing is, while I love the fact that you want to give us some money and incentivize certain things, cut the fucking spending. I mean, I don't think that's that much to ask for. We do it. If we have to pay our bills, we cut our spending if we don't have money to pay certain things. It's not that difficult. But then again, I forget because government is not like real life and not like business. It's government and you don't understand. So, yeah.
So what do you think about this whole Canadian thing that's going on? Do you know much about it?
There's a lot of things with Canada going on, but a lot of it is just, it's interesting.
The Prime Minister, Kendall, did you pull that video?
I did, and so let me take my ears off so I don't get an echo and struggle to talk. And I'll explain it as I pull it up. So give me a minute. So obviously, as I'm sure you're aware, Justin Trudeau stepped down, and they're doing their election cycle, right?
Yep.
So during the debates for the liberal people, his party, some surprising things came up, and they kind of tried to bury it. So I'll play it for you so that way you can see it. We obviously made a post at the 850 about it, and so I pulled it. But trying to find the transcript, I couldn't actually find.
You get it from Crowder. I love Crowder.
Yeah, but I couldn't find the transcript to where it was, getting the left and right side of what she said.
Imagine that
as one of the candidates. We have to pull it from Crowder, and we'll go back and post so the viewers can see it. But yeah, this is for you.
That woman's fucking stupid. I mean, I honestly didn't even need the title below to see that she was the liberal candidate. She's stupid. I mean, you want my honest, hardcore opinion? Yeah, I mean, first off, Canada's not a threat to America.
I know. Oh, dude.
Second off, Denmark is definitely not a threat to America. We've not actually threatened Denmark. We've not threatened Canada. This is your typical liberal getting out there and spreading some fear mongering.
He brought this up to me yesterday, and I was just like, the first thing I was like, "What?" He can tell you. I was like, "No, come on, bro. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life."
Yeah. Not to mention what I just took from that is it sounds like, okay, we're going to get together with all the other nuclear countries to be able to threaten the United States of America. So what are you threatening us with nuclear war? I mean, what is your point?
Well, I think it was the way that what I took away from it was in the way she explained it was, again, you can't, retard. But they are basically trying to sell it in a way of, well, we're going to partner with other countries that have nuclear weapons just in case the United States gets out of hand.
Yeah.
So I'm like a chess player. So like sometimes, you'll move a knight, and then threaten my queen, but I'm like, okay, so what? I don't care about that. I'm going to go do something on the other side of the board because I'm like, you're not going to do that.
I think some of the Canadian politicians.
I think that's the same thing. It's like, it's a threat. But it's not really a threat because you're f***ing Canada.
Yeah. I mean, first off, Canada's military, they're f***ing crazy. I mean, they're the reason for why half of the Geneva Convention is there, and they're the ones who created the phrase and mastered it. It's not a war crime the first time. And the funny thing about that is that with my aviation job that I do right now, the full-time job for it, we're working with the Canadian Air Force right now with their C-130 that's here for fueling. And it's funny listening to those guys who are in the military talk about it. And on my show, I have several dozen Canadian listeners that listen to the show and watch the show in Canada. And they chime in all the time, and they're like, yeah, Canadians don't feel the same way that the government does. So,
well, and not to, so I'm part of a Bible group. Locally, we do Beer and Bible. Chris Clubs runs it.
Beer and Bible, that's an interesting one.
It's really cool. I kind of, I mean, we still go to church, but that's I look forward to that. That kind of is my church when I go. So you meet and you have a couple of drinks, and then you discuss and have good conversation and devotion with other like-minded Christians. But one of the people that started, or actually two of the people that started coming to the group, they fled from freaking Canada.
Yeah.
And they fled.
The country's falling apart.
Trudeau, so they came here after the COVID-19 thing, against the vaccine. They didn't want to do that. They've got kids, and they came here, and they've been busting their ass to be able to stay in this country. But I mean, dude, they came here because they didn't like it there, and maybe it's because you got stupid ass people that are doing
a lot of politicians, they're stupid. I mean, look, when the whole thing with the 51st state came about, which by the way, a lot of people don't realize that was Justin Trudeau that started it, not Donald Trump.
He said something about becoming
he's the one who kind of made the reference of, less like us becoming the 51st state, and Donald Trump went, ding, yeah, you could be the 51st state and you can be the governor. Yeah. I talked with somebody who was in the room when it was discussed, and so that kind of came from them. But as soon as that happened, the Canadian dollar started to crash. It isn't worth shit anymore. And it's not repairing itself. They've got a lot of economic problems up there. The healthcare system is horrendous. No matter how much they try to give us but it's free. It's like, yeah, but you have a fraction of the number of people that we do, and that's why some of these countries can get away with it. It's like when we hear that comparison all the time. Switzerland. It's like we have more people in one hospital than Switzerland has for a population. So it's like, yeah, of course they can do it that way. We can't. We've got too many people, and we're paying for too many of your people that come down here anyhow. So, yeah, I mean, the country's falling apart.
That is funny because a lot of people do like to talk about how Switzerland is like the healthiest country on earth and blah, 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 blah. And it's like there's not that many people that are there.
Yeah, it doesn't take that much.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can find some towns or cities in America with almost the same population that are super healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple things with that. With the healthcare one, yeah, it's kind of you don't spend on military because,
you've got a great neighbor.
The benevolence of the United States around the world. And then two, they don't produce any medical innovations. That still comes from us. But no, kind of more on to the Canada one where it was, like you said, the difference between politicians and Canadians. I see it more as the government trying to sow dissent against America in general.
That sounds familiar.
Where you see, maybe Canadians on the left or on the west side of the country are more like, yeah, we'll do it. We'll gladly join because they're tired of what happened under Trudeau, like the Freedom Convoy or the lockdowns and things.
Yeah.
And then you see, that kind of sowing anger and dissent against America. I mean, I think that's why them booing the national anthem was televised. I mean, the United States,
are whooping their ass.
Yeah, I mean,
literally
usually
whooping their ass.
When there's an issue with the national anthems,
Greatest
like
lucky game ever.
the NFL and NBA, they're just like, we're just not going to broadcast it. So I think if it was known that they were going to do that, they probably wouldn't have done it. But they still, like you said, would have gotten their ass whooped just because of that.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see that was crazy. That whole thing with the hockey team.
That was the greatest ever. I mean, that was.
What did they think was going to happen?
I don't know, but I'm glad it happened.
There's a way to intimidate people, but that's like, it's kind of like, being somebody that has fought a lot and like got into a lot of like physical altercations because it's my job. Like,
right.
And we used to do it all the time. Like, there's just certain things you don't shit talk about, like with your buddy. And I feel like it's like the one that always gets you is like when you're in front of somebody and you talk about their girlfriend or their wife
or their mom.
Like, oh, I'm I'm gonna find your wife, I'm gonna bang her, or something like that. It's kind of like, that right there. I mean, once you get your ass kicked and you get your teeth kicked in, it's like, what did you think was gonna happen? Like that was something that was gonna set somebody on fire. Like they do not care about anything at that point. That was the thing with the national anthem when they booed it, and then all of this talking shit before that was all over media was like, fuck America and all that. Like, what do you think was gonna happen? Like we breed guys where we pay them like $22,000 a year to strap on gear and run into buildings without caring about their own safety and get blown up. Yeah. Like that, we breed those types of people. Yeah. And you thought that was a good idea just to start talking.
But when you look
trash.
at the hatred that comes in Canada, it's kind of the same thing as America. You know, like he said, the western part of the country, which, by the way, is where the majority of my Canadian listeners actually is in the western part. Wow. When you look at Ontario and Montreal, they're like the two areas in Toronto. They're the areas that you see all that liberal hate because they're liberal-bred cities. The rest of the country is not like that.
So being a conservative guy, if I wanted to go visit Canada, where do I go? Winnipeg?
Yeah. Anything out in the West is good. I mean, Canada's a beautiful country. Even places like Montreal, there's a lot of really cool history, and it's a cool city and everything. But, it's kind of like my hometown area in Massachusetts. I love Massachusetts. Beautiful state, but I hate the fucking people. They're so liberal. They're so, I mean, not in Western Mass, it's not as bad, but I mean, there's a sense of it there. But it's just, you get to the point, you're like, ugh.
Have you ever thought about and I'm sure you have, but like I just don't understand that it's a cultural thing. I know wherever you grow up, when we're growing up, chances are you're probably going to be conservative. But when you go up in those areas, chances are you're going to be liberal.
Depends on when you grow up. So I'm a Gen Xer, and when I grew up in Massachusetts, we had Republican congresspeople, Republican governors. It was very Republican, very conservative area. Yeah. Mid 80s or so, when the whole what was that? What did they call it? I forgot what they actually called them. But it was all the New Yorkers that started coming up, and they started infiltrating the area, and then they didn't leave, and then it kind of turned a little bit liberal. So it wasn't like that initially. I'm the pre-liberal era of Massachusetts.
More of a time issue rather than a geographical issue. Yeah. Because I mean, obviously I travel, and when I go out to California, buddy, Nevada.
Well, when I was talking with the Canadians the other day, the Canadian military, we were talking about some stuff, and he was like, I said I was from Massachusetts, and he goes, oh, kind of like that, you're a liberal. And then I mentioned that I was a Gen Xer, and he goes, oh, you're one of them, eh? And it's like, even Canada knows that, Gen Xers from Massachusetts, we really helped define the masshole title. So yeah, we're a different breed than they are now.
Going in what you were just talking about, though, how New Yorkers kind of came up into like the area of Massachusetts that you grew up in. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about here was like our local elections. We've seen a lot of people here lately. I guess I say a lot, not necessarily a lot, but we have seen these elections where they're starting to turn and not necessarily go to people that are from here. They go to people that are from out of state, out of town, out of county, whatever. And these guys are kind of taking over, but they don't really know the area as well, and they don't know the issues as well. They just know what they're being told.
One of the things too that I think a lot of people don't realize is that the vast majority, it's like 80-something% of the population of America lives on the coastline. This has been a undiscovered, aside from vacation location, and then when COVID hit especially, people were like, oh, I got to move there. So it was only a matter of time before this area started to move. And I think that the old school, born here, raised here mentality and population is going to be dramatically outnumbered, and that's not going to change. It's only going to increase. I mean, you're going to get a different way of thinking. And now the question is how do you fight that to continue to keep the culture of what this area has always been? It's going to be a hard thing to do because it's a matter of time before the area just changes. We just got to remind them not to go liberal.
Yeah, that's
the biggest push. Just remember that invite people here that are conservative, and if you're liberal, we'll just scare them out.
I mean that. Yeah, I think I don't know. Do we have any like liberal? I don't think we have any liberal or Democrats that are even elected officials in our area that I know of.
There's a few people that I think are Democrat.
The mayor of the mayor of Parker or Springfield.
One of those over there, I think,
I think he's the only Democrat.
Maybe
because we got rid of Brudnicki.
Yep. Which even he wasn't a real Democrat. He was registered Democrat, but he really, and I think that's one of the things that hurt him in the election.
Absolutely.
That he never.
Well, they attacked him on it.
Yeah.
They attacked him on Doc Rowan's Republican.
Yeah. But I also hate the nonpartisan elections. I don't care about the nonpartisan because it's not real.
That was something that pissed me off. That was one of those Florida bills that I asked you earlier. If you remember the bill?
They were trying to get rid of all of that and make it so that you had to be one party or another.
Yeah,
I think they were going to start with the school board. Is where they were going to start.
It was for the school board. Yeah. So if you were going to run for the school board, you would have to declare. It would no longer be a nonpartisan race. It's a partisan race,
and it should be that way. People should know who the elected people are.
They should know where you
stand.
And I've had this. So Whitney Nieves ran for school district this past race. Mm-hmm. Sweet, down to earth girl.
I've had her on my show.
Did you? I have nothing but she's great, nice person in the world. Obviously ran as a Democrat. I honestly think that's the reason why she couldn't beat Jerry Register.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude has been a Republican in this area for forever, and he's been in that school board position for forever, and we're not ready for a Democrat in the school board. And it's like,
Bay County's like 80% Republican.
Yeah.
So, and even the 20% that, and actually it's a little less than 20% that are Democrat are not liberals. So the whole liberal mentality is very small here too. But yeah, when you're dramatically outnumbered, it's going to be hard to win.
And so, she made the argument with me one evening where it was like, it's bipartisan, everything like that. But
nothing is bipartisan. I said,
my whole outlook on the bipartisan races and the partisan races is the reason why I think that we should know what party you're part of is because that tells me about your morals. Yeah. It tells me about what you're standing behind. Or at least the
base of your background of
and
what
that's
you're
not to say not every Democrat is for abortion. Not every Democrat is for transgender, mutilating children for transgender
I think,
reasons.
One of the things that's missing about Democrats is that I think the Democrats are really kind of a two-party. You have their Democrats, which I think are more centered than people realize, even they realize, and then you have your liberal progressives.
Yes,
and that liberal progressive is the batshit crazy.
They're the ones that put a shit name though on the people that aren't like that. Like Bill Maher.
Bill Maher.
Did you see his new stand-up that he did?
I haven't.
You got to go watch it because there's a few things that are in there.
Yeah, he used to call himself liberal, but now he stays away from that now because he's not liberal anymore.
He told it like it was. I enjoyed it. He did it on both sides. He pointed fingers both at the right and the left. And then he's like, dude, there's a reason why people are jumping ship and going over to the right. Yeah. It's because you guys are nuts. He flat out said it.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, you guys are crazy. All of your stuff is stupid.
Yeah.
You're sitting here screaming about things that really don't matter.
Mm-hmm. Look at people like Jasmine Crockett from Texas. I mean, that woman, she's batshit crazy. You got AOC, who's crazy. Oh my God. You got Elon Omar. You got Anna Presley, or however you want to call her name, Baldy. They're all they're stupid and they're crazy.
I don't understand how some of these people get elected.
I don't either. I really don't.
Because if they're not hiding what they're for.
Yeah.
Like people.
So it makes you wonder:
people that vote.
What level of corruption is in that area when it comes to voting, or how stupid are the people really? I can understand voting for somebody for the first time because you do a great campaign and you paint the picture all rosy, but then you come out and say the stupid shit you say all the time, like Jasmine Crockett. I mean, if she was our congresswoman, I would be in the front lines to recall her happy ass because she is nasty, bitter, racist, just angry woman. She offers absolutely nothing good for America, let alone even the Democrats. And yet she's elected. And you got AOC, who did all that damage in New York City with the whole Amazon deal, billions and billions of dollars of tax revenue, jobs, and everything else. And yet they keep reelecting her. So it really makes you kind of wonder. It's like, is there levels of corruption, or are people really this stupid and this is what people want?
Where do you stand on the voting stuff? Way back from the 2020 election with Trump? Like, where do you stay? Like, I'm kind of curious.
Honestly, I think that we should all look at it and say, is there a possibility that Joe Biden legitimately won? Yes. Because there was so much hatred for Donald Trump, the man. There was so much destruction of his image as the president. And people were fed so much shit that the possibility of Biden legitimately winning, I think, is there. That margin, no. Absolutely not. There is absolutely no way that Joe Biden won by that margin. I've done a lot of research on this. I've had people like Christina Bobb on my show, which is one of Donald Trump's lawyers. She was the one that was at Mar-a-Lago when it was raided.
Really? You had her on?
Yeah, she's awesome. But I've talked with her, and I've talked with a few others, and I've read her book that she's got out, and you can see that they've laid out the things where there was problems. And I think that if some of those problems were investigated, you probably would have seen that Biden maybe didn't win those districts, or didn't win it by as much as he did. So I think that, again, I think there was a possibility, and it's probably more realistic that Trump did lose, but not by that margin. I think it probably would have been one of the slimmest victories that we've probably ever seen. But there was a lot of stuff that was done where they were shady. I mean, it's pretty obvious that there was something wrong. But no courts ever heard it, so no evidence was ever done. That's why I want the Fulton County suit, the one with the other bat crap crazy one there, Fannie Willis. I want that to go through. I want that to go to trial, because I want to finally officially see on the record, here's the evidence that we have of all these things that have gone wrong, because that hasn't happened yet. It's all just been Trump and his surrogate saying, hey, here's all the things that happened.
Yeah, my
but it's
pillow,
never been in a court.
My cozy pillow or something, isn't that right?
Oh, the Mike from My Pillow.
That guy. It's really hard to take that shit seriously when he starts to talk, because I'm like, all right, dude, you totally are.
Yeah.
I feel bad for that guy.
There's been some pretty crazy surrogates that got out there, and I think unfortunately that's hurt the fight for it. But they really needed to attack it better. And again, Republicans, they're horrible at messaging. I mean, I don't know what it is about them, but they couldn't message their way out of a wet paper bag with holes in it.
Republicans suck at a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And one of the things being is they are cherry pickers.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a big deal about this, but not about that.
Yeah.
But, and this is a big deal.
And then they don't know how to get an actual message out. Like I had the RNC on my show one time, and I forgot which member of it was. It's one of the higher ups, and I was talking about this, and this was prior to Trump doing his rallies in New York City. When I said, you guys have got to target places like New York City where it's a problem, where the Democrat policies are falling apart and they're causing issues. I said, you need to get out there and get that message out. And the person's responded to me going, well, we have an office in New York City, so if you want to get information, you can come by our office. Yeah. I'm like, first came to mind was like, you're stupid. But I was like, no, that's not how you do this. And then weeks later, that's when Donald Trump did the bodega rally, where he just stopped there, and thousands of people showed up in New York City, in Brooklyn, for him to just literally stop at a bodega. That's all he did. It wasn't really a campaign thing or anything. He just stopped there. And it's just obvious that, the Republicans just don't know how to message.
Yeah. And then when they start to lose, they do dumb shit to try to make up for it.
Yeah.
This is a very, very unpopular thing, and this might not make the podcast, but Kendall and I, we ran through it. One of the guys, so I was actually, when I first got out of the military, I was looking for work. I had done a couple things here and there, but then of course I had gotten into the private military contracting. So one of the things that I was trained on was executive protection. When I got out of the military, I went to a couple of schools, and so I was being sent to Afghanistan to go do that. So I know the principles of how things work, especially if you watch the day that Donald Trump got shot. Or I'm not going to say he got shot. He got grazed. There's one of two things with this. And I would die on this hill. I'm pretty positive about this. But so it's either A, he stooped to a level to do something to be able to gain the publicity, and this was a cut type thing, and the reason why I'm saying that is because the amount of time from shots fired to the amount of time that he was out of there, all of the moves that the Secret Service made were not standard operating procedure. They're not standard in any realm. I know, right now, I know senators and congressmen that have gone overseas to combat areas where this type of scenario has happened, and guys that aren't as highly as trained as the Secret Service were able to maneuver, and the time is of the essence after something like this takes place, because everything is limited because you don't know what's going to happen. Just everything about that smelled and just stunk to high heaven. So it's either they stooped to that level, or two, Trump did not know about it and the people around him did this and it failed. But this third option, where it's like, oh, this guy got on a roof and this was just all random and nobody around Trump knew what was going on, that's a load of shit.
No.
There's no way. There's no way. I know guys who work for who work for the Secret Service who have protected people. I can tell you right now that that whole thing was a sham, and it might have been a sham against him from his own people that were supposed to be protecting him. But I can tell you that was a load of shit.
That one's a tough one to go down. Force protection and personal security, that type of stuff, has always been something that I've always studied a lot about, and I've always studied a lot of the Secret Service stuff.
Yeah,
there's a lot about that event that went wrong.
Yeah.
I think was stupid lucky. I think there probably were people that did know about it.
I think so.
I'm sure there was also, the kind of the DEI factor, because
I think that might be it too.
We've seen a lot of, and Dan Bongino, former Secret Service protection instructor, he talked a lot about this and how so many things didn't match. Like, you have somebody who's like 5 foot something protecting a guy who's 6 foot something. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you don't do that.
So there's a lot of things that I think went wrong. And I think that every opportunity that the opposition had, I think they've been trying to take them out anyhow. And I think they got lucky in this one because of so many other elements that fell apart. And I don't know if anybody within the Trump campaign organization knew about it. I doubt that.
I don't think that's the case, but I'm for sure certain.
Former director of the Secret Service, that type of stuff, where there's so many things. And I understand that, okay, Jill Biden was not too far away and Joe Biden was doing things and other people with protective details were doing things, and it thinned out the availability of stuff. But the campaign had been asking for a long time. So I have a feeling that and in behind the scenes of things that they were like, let's give him the worst that we can give him. We'll give him a couple of really good guys, like the guy that they just named the Secret Service director. But then we'll sprinkle in, the people that really aren't worth a whole lot into that mix and see what happens.
Coming from tactical knowledge base, and I look at a lot of these active shooting situations, including this attempt on the life of our former president, now acting president. But I look at these things, and a lot of them don't match up with anything. Yeah. What was the active shooter? It was like this motherfucker.
Uvalde.
Is that the motherfucker that got caught with like the like $9,000 worth of equipment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's like a kid.
Yeah.
And he didn't know how to use half the shit that he had.
Yeah. Makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Well, that and like, another thing that should bring up a lot of questions was the golf course shooter, a potential shooter.
And that was not covered.
It wasn't really covered that much,
Yeah,
but one of the things that did come out about it was the agent who apparently was like 20, 30 feet away from them
It missed.
emptied a magazine
And missed.
and missed.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a Secret Service agent.
Yeah. That's not supposed to happen.
I mean, okay, empty a magazine, but at least hit him a couple of times.
And that's 20 rounds. I mean, for viewers, 20 rounds of a 9mm, you should be able to hit something at 20 feet. At least once.
At least once, or at least near him or something. But it was 20 rounds of missing. It was just, it's one of those things where you look at it and go.
Have you seen that video of the guy who's mad at the attorney and he's trying to shoot him and the dude's behind a tree?
Yeah.
And like he missed every shot.
Yeah.
Like he's right there.
Yeah, just
dude.
walk up to him.
Yeah, all you had to do was and that kind of reminds me of the golf course thing. But yeah, that second one was another thing. I mean, and that's concerning in itself when you have, I mean, how many attempts on the president were there for Obama? I know that there was
a few.
There was a couple that never, but man,
they rarely ever talk about those attempts.
They don't ever talk about those attempts.
Yeah.
And
And there's been attempts on Trump before that they just never talked about. So, I mean,
part
it
of
happens.
being the Secret Service.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be out there for the public, but you're not going to get away from something like that shooter. And this guy, dude, just like everything about that. I mean, this guy walked out in the middle of you're in the middle of a crowd, basically.
He didn't even walk out into a crowd. The crowd was way over here.
Yeah.
He walked out into the open
he just
field
walked
area.
Up, and then, but I'm saying there was a crowd that was nearby, and he just gets up on the roof.
Yep.
People were pointing it out to law enforcement, and they weren't doing anything about it.
Yeah.
Like they literally saw the with a gun.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm like, dude, none of this makes any sense.
And he flew the drone.
What now?
He flew the drone over the rally.
Yeah. How does this stuff? How do you get away with it?
Yeah. You get away with it by, I think, both
Having
a
an in.
combination of incompetence, having a little bit of an in, and I think there's a lot of failure that happened there, and I think there's a lot of intentional failure.
But you know that our
by setting
government
it up.
can't be trusted, just like everybody else. You remember MK Ultra? I mean, that's the type of stuff that they'll do to citizens. Who's to say they didn't drug this dude up and give him a gun and tell him to go get up there and do this?
You look at every mass shooter. If you really break it down into the psychological aspect of these mass shooters, whether or not it's a government thing, because I know some people are like, oh my God, it's the government that's planning these things. Yeah. But every single shooter that you've seen, mass shooters, the school shooters and everything, they've all had psychological problems.
Yeah, and they were documented.
Yeah,
it's
very
not like
well documented.
It wasn't like it was.
It's not like they were investigating and they asked their mom and dad, "Hey, was your kid depressed?" Well, actually, now that I think about it, no, I mean it's documented that they've got issues and they're on medications and everything else. So, I mean, look, we've done psych ops in the past where we've done some things. So there's a lot of questions about this kid. Where was the money coming from and all this other stuff? And
that was the thing
wouldn't
about
surprise me.
That was the thing about the Uvalde thing, like a Daniel Defense, AR, and he had like level 3+ plates or something like that, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
He had stuff that just didn't make sense for somebody with his skill set or
to
knowledge to possess.
And when you even look at how he lost his life and what all went down there, that was sketchy.
Yeah.
All of these things are really just, set up. And I guess there's no way to make it look like it's not. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of hard to.
But and I think a lot of that, too, is because of the level of incompetence. I mean, you look at the Uvalde police. I mean, go. I mean, that was one of the biggest lessons that was learned from Columbine.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of law enforcement family and a lot of people that I know that work in law enforcement. So I've obviously studied a lot of this stuff. And, the big lesson that they learned from Columbine was don't wait. When there's an active shooter, go get them. Mm-hmm. And you've seen that from police force after police force after police force. And then Uvalde happens. You've got the shots still ringing out. And a guy stops to chapstick on or whatever the hell it was. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Hand sanitizer.
Yeah, and hand sanitizer.
Well,
You're about to go shoot somebody. Who cares about the hand sanitizer?
I am not going to make an excuse for that at all, but being a cop is cool until you have to do cop shit.
Yeah.
Being,
the tough cop shit.
Being, you know, the saying in the military is always like, everybody wants to be infantry until you got to do infantry stuff.
Until you're shot at.
Until you get shot at. Like,
But then you look at the Uvalde and who actually stepped up, you know, the off-duty people that came in and was like, get out of the way.
Yeah.
And they went in.
But that's my
it.
point is like somebody like this, a lot of people don't have when you're going through certain types of training, and I think this happens with a lot of law enforcement, they look at the job as being as something that it's not necessarily going to be. And I think that's probably what you're seeing there with that guy. It wasn't a lack. I think it is a lack of training, because the more training you have, the more confidence you have. The more time you've done something,
the more situational awareness that you are, and the training of all that you.
So it is a training thing, but it's also a mindset thing to be like, okay, I'm about to run into a place where shots are being fired. Your drive to saving children, to make sure that they're not going to get freaking schwacked, that right there should be your motivation to do the right thing. And it's when you're in that situation, probably a difficult thing.
Adrenaline gets running.
Because again, you're not dealing with somebody that, you know, and that's the thing that's the only complaint that I have against law enforcement in our nation. It's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
It's the fact that these guys, the training, and I get it, you know, they're low funded, whatever the excuses may be, but like, it's the lack of training that they have. I mean, look at the standard police officer that we have. Nothing special, no special types of training. Just got out of the academy, whatever. He goes and does a routine traffic stop, and he bleeds with, he drips with like, what's the word? And like antagonization. Like they want to antagonize. Like it's never like, hey, sir, how you going? How you doing today? Where are you headed?
Diffusing the situation. They don't do it all the time.
You just pulled over somebody on the side of the road. And this is, I say this, I've got several law enforcement friends that have talked to me, because I've had to go through lots of training on how to de-escalate situations, especially for my job when I got out of the military. And, you know, I've said this to them: you have pulled over a vehicle. You have no idea who's in there. You have no idea what kind of day they're having. You have no idea anything. Oh, yeah, I've been through training. I understand how that works. I was like, then why are you trying to act dominant?
Yeah.
You are not in a winning situation. You are in a lose situation from the moment you get out of your vehicle.
Yep.
The moment that you pulled them over, you're in a lose situation.
Yeah.
Because you have no idea what you're getting into.
Yeah, de-escalating it and making them feel calm and collective.
Yeah, exactly. Man.
Yeah.
What happened to the days of Andy? I mean, I get it. Oh, the days of Andy Griffith are over. You know, you can't have that friendly guy. Bullshit.
Yeah, you can.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And you are more likely to go home and not go home in a body bag when you are trying to de-escalate a situation.
Yeah, I've had an example of kind of that happen with me. I got pulled over one time because my plates were expired. I didn't know. Because, you know, I'd submitted for all your stuff, and sometimes it takes a couple of days, but I didn't realize that my plate itself was being replaced.
Yeah.
Simple, easy thing. But again, if you run it like you ran the plate, you would realize that everything has been paid for and it just isn't on there. Yeah. And I got pulled over, and, you know, I'm not a threat. You know, I wasn't having a bad day. As a matter of fact, it was just after my birthday. So everything was fine. I was pretty good. And the officer came up, and he was almost escalating things about, you know, giving me the attitude about, oh, your plates are expired. You have the wrong plates. And I'm just like, and I just looked at him. I was like, good evening. How are you? And, you know, just kind of like, I'm trying to de-escalate it. And he continued with that. And he was just being an a-hole about everything. Yeah. And, you know, it ends up coming back and goes, well, you know, it all came back fine. I'm like, thanks. I was like, I hope you have a better night. I'm like, there's just absolutely no need for that. I mean, if I was somebody who was, my girlfriend just broke up with me, or I found her cheating on me, or I had a bad day, just lost my job, or I was on drugs or whatever, and he came up to me on something that was so simple. I mean, who's to say that it wouldn't have been one of those reach over and pop him off, because he set me off, and that's all I needed. Well, but training is what it is.
And he made every single cop for that department look bad. Yeah. And now all of them are like that, even though they're not.
I mean, thankfully, I didn't take it in that way, but a lot lot people do take it that way. I just looked at it as going, man, this guy's got a bad day.
Back during at the very beginning of the year, back in the beginning of January, I have property that I've been hunting on for a long time, family property, and me and my dad went up up to the property to go get my stand and a feeder and I literally had a guy brandish a weapon on both me and my dad.
On your property?
No, so it wasn't on my family's property. It was on somebody else's property that it butts up to their property. They wanted us, to go. And I was like, hey, I got to deal with the property owner, which is my grandfather who owns the property.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, we're just getting this stuff and we're getting out of here. And the guy wanted to get, frustrated and start mouthing off. And so me being the guy that I am, again, not having the best situational awareness as possible, I look over at him and I mouth off right back. And I was like, okay, well, you can get over it. Like, this is what's happening. And then he lifted up his shirt and there's a freaking, I think it was like a small 380 or something that he had. And
it's because he clearly had plenty of room to put it there.
He lifted it up. So check it out. This is how stupid people are because this is how people, they just don't think. This is one of those rednecks that's like, I'll shoot anybody for anything. Shut up. No, you won't.
Yeah.
This is why. This is how dumb this guy is. First of all, trained guy, I pull out a gun and I shoot you 5 times before you can even touch it. And the reason why is because you had one hand in your hoodie pocket. Like, you literally kept your hand in the hoodie pocket and then you put your hand down and pulled up that side. Yeah. Both of your hands
are busy.
I bop, bop, bop. And I could have shot, killed the guy. I could have shot and killed him, and it was a clean kill. Oh. The guy literally pulled a gun on me and my father because now he is a physical threat. I could have done it. Didn't do it. The first thing that came out of my mouth when he did that, I was like, whoa, okay. I'm really good at that game. I don't want to find out how good you are at that game. I'm just getting my stuff and getting out of here. And then, and then it was just kind of like waiting for him to move on and do his thing. Guess what? He didn't die. Okay. I could call the police. I could ruin his life for forever. He's going to go to prison. You're going to go to prison. Yeah. Okay. I didn't even do that. Kid's 20 years old. He's retarded. Like, he's not thinking straight.
Yeah.
And, a lot of my buddies who I've operated with and stuff, they're like, dude, someone's going to come along one day. He's going to do that to somebody. And they're just going to shoot the shit out of him. And I was like, as long as it's not on my conscience.
Right.
So I was like, I don't care. But the thing about it is like, that's kind of this, whenever you're getting in these situations where firearms are involved, because every single incident with law enforcement, firearms are involved because they have a firearm.
Right.
In the state of Florida, pretty much, you probably have one too.
Yeah.
But so firearms are always involved. And when a firearm is involved, calm, collective, precise with what you're saying. Don't be mumbling, whatever. And you're pretty much going to be okay. And the same goes for the person that's, operating the vehicle or that's doing something illegal. Mm-hmm. Like, you should be like that. You don't know what kind of day that cop has had.
Yeah.
He might be ready to end it all. I'm tired of this job.
Don't rub each other the wrong way.
My wife just left me.
Get phone numbers and rub each other the right way later.
Well, there was the Acorn cop. Right?
Oh my God. You remember that guy?
Oh, yes. Was that Okaloosa or Pensacola?
It was right here.
In Walton.
Walton.
Yeah.
It was Walton County. Dude.
That's the funniest ever.
What was funny about it is he put a full mag, and wait, was it 2 or 1.5? I think it was
2.
He put 2, his partner put 1.
Yeah. Both of these, oh my God, they would be horrible to serve with because he went through a whole mag. Then she pulled out her gun. She didn't even know what she was shooting at.
Yeah, she's just shooting because they're shooting. Yeah,
she was just shooting for the fuck of it.
Yeah,
and I'm like, and they're like, "Oh, this guy needs to get canned." I'm like, both of them need to be gone, dude. They're both freaking.
But it also highlights the lack of training thing, and it's one of these things when it comes to budgeting. What are we spending our money on? And people don't realize that you have to do conditional training for police officers all the time.
Yeah,
that's like I had the conversation one time and. Back when I was actually running for county commissioner one time, I had said that, things like the Panama City Police, the Panama City Beach Police, Parker, all these, they should all be done away with and rolled into the sheriff's office for the simple reason of the resources. And I got so much pushback on that. But, it is a matter of, does the Bay County Sheriff have more money and more resources to train their people for conditional stuff versus Parker. You know, I mean, how often do the officers in Parker get conditional training so that they're conditioned for these type of situations? And it's almost as if like we're setting a lot of our police officers up for that. We're not training them for that. We're not paying attention to their mental health, you know, and so many things because it costs money. But again, our politicians like to spend money on other stupid things like let's build a walking path. That's great. But how many police officers can we train with that walking path money?
And I think a lot of it's just the culture, right? Because when me and Ron talk about it, my biggest thing is if I could change things and how all police are done, my first one is no more like single beat cops. You will have a battle buddy. And it's just kind of military things like that because one, you know, when you're driving, running a plate, cool, you're driving, your guy can do it. And then two, as we're saying, you know, maybe someone had a bad day, like you pulled them over for a traffic stop and now you got the brunt end of their anger. Cool, man. Next stop's on you as I decompress. And then, you know, just that accountability. I think it's simple things like that. But yeah, more people cost more money. But I think that helps alleviate training issues really quick. And then
having a battle buddy is an accountability thing too, where you have somebody that's there that's able to kind of bring you back to the line. Especially guys who have operated overseas at checkpoints and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There are guys that have lost their freaking mind doing those jobs because it's so freaking dangerous.
Yep.
And you start to get paranoid and you start to treat the people that are coming across those checkpoints like a schizophrenic nerd. And so what happens is, you have a battle buddy that's there to kind of bring you back. Hey, man, go sit down. Like, we got this. You know, just take a break for a second because you're definitely not in the right mindset. Mindset is everything. And again, the mindset and the training aspect. But when you were talking about the local police forces and agencies coming together and being pretty much under the sheriff's department,
one umbrella,
one umbrella like that. When I lived down in Tampa, that county, because I was in Brandon, Florida, and the county ran that area, and it was great. I don't know. I get a different vibe from sheriff's deputies than I do from Panama City Beach, and everybody else. It could be because of the funding. Not just on training. I think the salary is a little bit higher.
Yeah, it could be.
We just had on, Josh Street. He talked about it because I told him, I said, you'd have to be an idiot to not feel safe walking through downtown Panama City right now, because you can spit from here to there and you'll touch a cop car. Yeah, they're everywhere. They're like ants down there. And I know that it is kind of like a bad taste in people's mouth for that, but I got a family. I've got kids now.
Police presence does so much.
It does, and
which
it's great.
Which brings up another point too. With police presence.
But what he said was, he said that they've brought in people that have moved here out of state. They've come here, and that's some of our police force aren't even from here, and it's brought better quality officers to the area. Right. Because they come here with better training.
Yeah, come from much bigger cities. But, another thing with police presence, something that I absolutely despise, and I don't know why this is the trend, but ghost decals.
What is it?
The ghost decals, the ghost cars.
Oh, my God.
That is not police presence.
No.
That's entrapment.
Yeah.
I mean, that's plain as... I mean, I understand there's certain units that it makes sense for.
Yeah.
But as a patrol unit, it doesn't. And I don't understand why all of a sudden that's the trend, because that's not a police presence. Being able to look up and go, oh, there's a cop. Oh, there's a cop. That's police presence. Not, is that a cop? I'm not sure. Well, screw it. Let's take a chance. Yeah. And I don't know what that trend has started and why it is, but I just despise it.
And the argument against it that they use is, well, if you're doing the right thing all the time, you don't have to worry about it. And it's like, how about, hey, again,
there's a reality with all the laws and regulations that are now imposed upon Americans. Every American every day breaks a law because there's so much stuff.
Well, they say the saying is every person breaks 3 felonies every day.
Yeah. And a lot of that is because, it contributes to the fact that America is no longer one of the freest nations in the world. We rank high teens on the Freedom Index because of the number of regulations and laws that we have. And, so yeah, we're all going to.
Or most in incarceration.
Yeah. I mean, we're all going to do something stupid. But sometimes when there's a cop around, we'll think a little bit more about some of our dumb actions.
We have the highest incarceration rate.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
We have more people in prison.
But then there's also for so much stupid shit, which is another problem with the fact that we over law enforcement on certain things. And, we have laws for just dumb things like marijuana. I mean, I don't smoke pot, never had smoked pot. I'm not interested in smoking pot. I don't give a shit if you do. Mm-hmm. I don't give a shit if anybody else does. And I think there's a fine, not even a fine line. It's a thick, bold Sharpie line between I have a joint in my pocket and the back of my van is stacked to the tilt. And for me to have a joint in my pocket or in the ashtray of my car, is that really worth destroying somebody's life over? And I think that we've made really poor decisions by going after people like that. And those are the type of laws that I think need to be changed, and it would stop so much incarceration. But we incarcerate for so much stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And that goes to the fault of our lawmakers.
Yeah, and a lot of these things, that's the whole. Denzel Washington spoke because obviously when incarceration comes up, obviously, that's when the race issue comes up, and so there is no doubt in my mind that there is some sort of racism in a lot of departments. We're not going to deny it. And if you did, you'd be a moron because it's proven.
Racism is there. It's just nowhere near what people make it out to be.
It's not where because I was actually doing the math on that too. Here, well, that's a topic in itself, but when it comes to the incarceration rate and then doing the whole the race aspect of it, I don't think that it falls in line with race as much as I do the family unit.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the statistics on guys who are locked up in any race, there's data that's out there, and I'm sure Kendall could find it if he wanted to, of the fatherlessness rate that actually.
When you build a culture that encourages certain behaviors, doesn't do things like, raise children properly so that there's discipline with them. Of course you're going to get that. And of course you look at that the jail time rate. Mouth stops working. Yeah. I talk for a living, by the way. You look at it in areas of where it's the strongest, and it's where you have the most Democrat liberal policies and where they really push so hard to, keep the minority family down. And again, that's not happening so strongly in Republican-run areas. It's Democrat-run areas, but it is the way that they develop the culture. I mean, going all the way back to the 60s, 70s, where you started dividing the black family and getting the man out of the family. It's like, what do you think is going to happen?
I think it would be more safe to say that, just for me, you could say the Democrat liberal side is more blue-collar crime, and then the Republican conservative side is more white collar crime that you find more of. That's where you're going to find your stockbrokers and sleazy fucking politicians that are out there doing those corrupt deals. And then on the Democratic side, you're seeing the violence, the drugs, and then both have the aspect of the family dynamic.
Yeah.
It's very important. That's the reason why bringing the Bible into it. I mean, the Bible is very, very clear on, how the family is supposed to operate. It literally gives everybody their role. And if that role isn't being met, and it goes back to what we were saying at the beginning, and a lot of people are like, oh my God, toxic masculinity. Yeah. And it's like, guess what? You get mad, people get mad at me because I'll be in Publix and my kid gets out of line and I have no problem going ahead and freaking
masculinity is natural.
Around and freaking spotting my son, and people want to sit there and they want to be like, oh, and I'll be like,
I didn't beat him, I just spotted him.
Well, not only that,
big difference.
Not only that, I'm looking at you with you and your little brat kid that sat there and said, "Mommy, mommy, 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 mommy." My kids don't do that.
Yeah.
And my kids don't have to be all up under me. And my kids don't need me. They are learning how to be people.
Yeah.
And
well, masculinity is a natural thing. I mean, and it really, truly is. I mean, you take, the human factor out of it and just you look at, every animal race, how the males are taught to be dominant. They're taught to be masculine, to be protective and to fill that role. That's a natural role. And the liberals are against that. And they want to, essentially neuter it so that it's not that way. Oh, God. Which, again, it's a control issue.
That's the reason why, man. It actually is concerning to me on just being a citizen in this country sometimes. Because me and my wife, we go to Sunday school, we go to church, and we're out and about. We're involved with the community. So, I mean, I talk to men here and there. And then some dudes, I'm just like, man, dude, who raised you?
Yeah.
Like you, and I'm not saying that you got to be, but then there's that aspect of being on the Bible Belt. I'm going down a completely different rabbit hole, so bear with me for a second. This Bible Belt mentality of they crucify the heck out of being masculine too. They do. That's the reason why I'm really careful about where we go to church and who we kind of like listen to, because I know several people that are great people. They're nice guys. They're successful financially. But if their family was threatened tomorrow, or if they were in a physical altercation, they're not ready.
Yeah.
And life's just and it's because they were brought up on this mentality of be kind. Yeah. All your words need to be, and it's like, they're kind of like pushovers. And it's really, really hard. I'm not trying to shit talk some of my buddies, because the ones that are going to listen to this are going to know who I'm talking about. And it's like,
but you see it everywhere. And
then you want to wonder why your son comes up while he's in his teenage years and he's I think I'm a girl and I want to I want to dye my hair blue. And
well, that or some of those trends on TikTok where they were destroying things, like the milk jug one.
Oh, where they go into stores and what are you talking about?
So they would go in, pick up milk jugs, open them up, start pouring them out, pouring them on them, causing a scene.
Yeah. I mean, you always have like these little things, and it's like, where were your parents?
Right.
Like, why are they not bringing you up? Like, a lot of the people that we have over, even to hang out, like the way people parent nowadays, I'm starting to base. Me and my wife.
Who you want to hang out with?
Yeah, me and my wife are basing who we hang out with based on how they treat their kids.
Right.
And if the kids run the household where they just pretty much get away and they can stomp their feet and talk back. Oh my God, man!
Yeah.
You're talking back. Anyway, you're not a parent.
God, no.
Well,
no.
You might have.
And actually, I've even got to point this out, that because anybody that knows me in my inner circle will watch this and go, man, you were on your best behavior. Because I kind of have been. I've been on my best behavior. And normally I don't give a shit. I just say what's on my mind and I say it. And, I've been accused of being toxic masculinity because of the way that I talk about something. Yeah. But I mean, look, the F-bomb is my favorite word, and I use it all the time. And it's funny to watch how people just get so uncomfortable and upset. It's like, it's a word.
Do you want to hear a funny story?
Yes.
So I was, when I was running for office, I had put out a video where I was talking about the reasons why I was running. Mm-hmm. And I used some language. I didn't drop the F-bomb on the video, but I dropped the F-bomb when I was talking out. Dude, I'm still transitioning.
Right.
So, and I'm used to
got that military thing. And
most of the guys that I work with.
I'm just a Gen Xer from Massachusetts. That's why the F-bomb it's part of my nature. It's in my DNA.
The guys that I work with, we're all ex-military, and we all come from tactical, jobs. Mm-hmm. And so, well, I dropped the F-bomb somewhere where I was speaking, and then I came out with this video. I think I used the word damn or shit or something like that. And then I got maybe like 20 messages over Facebook and my email, my campaign email, where people were just like, oh my God, I would never vote for you if you use this kind of language, and this is the type of person that you are, blah, 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 blah. And then I even, I got phone calls. I got a phone call from a woman who I actually respect a lot. I grew up around her, and her son and I used to be friends. She called me. And then I had another friend of mine. I actually used to work for him. He called me. His was the funniest of them all. This is the one I want to tell you about. He sat there and was like, man, God put this on my heart. I really need to reach out to you and let you know, like, man, you got like Bible verses on your Facebook page, and you've got, obviously we've gone to church together, and I know you from church, and just seeing you, with this type of language and stuff like that. I mean, dude, I don't think you're heading in the right direction. I think this is wrong. I think that is wrong. Whatever. I was happy that people were reaching out to me and letting me know how they felt. But what was really, really funny about it, all of it is I had made another video right after, and it showed every time Trump has dropped the F-bomb.
Right.
And it was like a million times.
Right,
It's a lot. And he was like sitting there like, and when he drops the F-bomb, he doesn't just say fucking. It's the fucking, like, I mean, he puts emphasis on it.
That's the thing about us from the Northeast, especially the older generations, the Gen X and Boomers. That's a word we use, and we use it all the time and use it well.
So I put this video out, and I was just like, dude, what's so funny is about like the Bible Belt and the people that are, they dig their heads in the Bible, and they have a hard time. I do feel it. There are a lot of people out there that can't balance both. Mm-hmm. They can't. They might be successful financially. They might even be successful with their families, or so it looks. But the thing about it is you're fake. You're not real, because you can't balance the two to realize like life from words. And these are the same people that sit there and they say, thank you for your service. And they go up to like men and women who have served. And what's funny to me is the people that you normally thank that have actually taken fire and been overseas and have been wounded, you don't like them.
Yeah.
And they don't like you.
Right.
And you wouldn't invite them in and have dinner with them.
Yeah.
You're not going to invite them over for Christmas Day, but yet you sit here and you play this thing about like, oh, veterans, and you freaking, the thing about it is you judge people. Mm-hmm. And so if you're going to judge somebody based on fuck, shit, damn, that's a you problem.
Yeah.
That is not a me problem. Yeah. That's a problem that you have.
I've been ripped apart before simply because I've said Jesus, man. Like I would
use the Lord's name in vain.
I know. Let me tell you, I got ripped for that one from somebody.
That's not even what it means when you say use the Lord's name in vain.
Jesus, man. I mean, that's what I was saying, and oh my God, I got ripped into. But yeah, some people just they get oversensitive about things.
Scripture taken out of context. When you say that you are using the Lord's name in vain, that means that you are like that. That would be like saying, I burned down a school while kids were in it, and then I say Jesus told me to do it. That's using the Lord's name in vain. Not saying, Jesus, bro.
Yeah.
That's not using. Yeah. And again, like these are the types of things, but these are the people that are having kids.
Yeah.
And it's sad. Like, dude, you're not raising people, and then they're going to have this simple-minded thing, and then every person that uses, I was one of them, man. I was very, very sheltered when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. My mom and dad were very against using profanity.
The only shelter I had to make it. Get outside and play.
Exactly. And so when you're coming from, that, I used to look like I frowned upon people that used profanity. I think I saw something the other day. Somebody had posted something on Facebook, and it was like, leave profanity for the uneducated. And I was like, well, I don't know about you, but Elon Musk's got a lot of fucking knowledge.
Well,
and he's made a lot of
studies
money.
show that those who fucking cuss more often are way more intelligent. So kiss my ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that about wraps it up on profanity.
How many times has this been bleeped out, this entire segment?
So we kind of talked about I'm not planning on bleeping it.
There you go.
Yeah. I actually have a disclaimer that I play now.
Stop being a wuss.
I'll let you listen to it. When we were talking about the local elections, we kind of hit on this earlier. I know we kind of got off topic, but
Just a little bit. A lot of ooh squirrel in this entire segment, but it's okay.
We talked about it earlier. The Panama City Beach moving their election to November.
Yeah.
And you think that it's because of low voter turnout, right?
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, low voter turnout. You know, the problem that we have with the American culture is that life is busy. I mean, I know how busy my life is. I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I don't go to bed till 10:30-ish. And that's a regular basis for me. And my day is cram-packed all day long. And so many Americans are that same way. They're running their business, working their job, getting home, doing the family stuff, baseball games, soccer games, all this other stuff. So people's lives are busy. And for them to have to constantly take time out to go and vote. And, you know, even though it's like 2 times every couple of years, you know, it seems to be a big burden for people. Or they get so busy with things. And the typical thing we all remember is that voting season is in November. Well, people forget that municipals are in April.
Yeah.
So I think that it's going to be a very good thing to move it to November because people are more apt to get out to vote for president, more apt to get out to vote for your congressman. And if your mayor and city council and county commissioners and everything are all in that same spot, then, you know, people might be more apt to get out and vote, and we'll see a better turnout instead of, you know, 3,000 people getting out to vote for the mayor's election in a city of, you know, 40-something thousand people. You know, that's embarrassing to see that type of thing happen. So I think it's going to be a good thing. You know, the other thing that I know that there's been this push on, and even Trump has said it, and I'll call out that it's a dumb idea, and that is the national day of election where we vote for one day. It's bullshit. You know, America's culture, again, it's too busy. You can't do that. And a perfect example of how it works this time around is that the Republicans used early voting more this time around in the November election than they've ever done before. And look at the successful turnout.
Yeah.
So that's the type of thing that, you know, Republicans need to get out there and start pushing is that early voting and voting in November. Move all of this stuff to November, you know, because otherwise it's like you get this political burnout. It's like, man, I just finished doing elections. We got another one, you know, and so people just tune out. And then you get bad candidates that are running your city and local elections. They say it all starts in local. As a city official, I can vote for something right now and it can go into effect tomorrow, you know, and it affects your life directly. You know, something in Washington, D.C. can be voted on and it can take years for it to actually take effect. So people they really got to pay attention to the local elections. And it's also a tool, and I've talked about this on my show before, that the Democrats will use. And they have a plan for this, is screw the presidential election. That's not that important. Congress, But if you can get the state houses and if you can get the local elections, you can alter a city with running the council. If you can get Democrats and liberals into your city council, like if you were to infiltrate it here and you do it here, you can change this area overnight because now all the liberal policies will be implemented and there's nothing you can do for a couple of years unless we somehow recall these people or fight them. So that's why it's so important. And moving it to a day that you know, makes more sense for people to get out is a good thing. Maybe we'll get better leaders.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it probably. I wish they would have done it with the county because the county, our election,
that's in talks.
Very low.
That's in talks. I think before very long we're going to see everything move to November.
Yeah.
There's a big push for it, so I think we'll see it.
I make a joke now where I say all of the people that actually got out and voted were employed by the donors who were behind all of it.
Yeah. Or somebody just had nothing better to do with their time, or are hyper political, and they're very much so into the political realm. Everybody else just no.
There's tons of people on base. Like I was walking around, I was like, "Hey man, did you get out and vote?" They're like, "What? Oh, when's the election?" I'm like, "It was 2 days ago." They're like, "Oh man, I didn't even know." And it's like, okay, yep. And then a lot of people don't follow really what goes on right now.
Yeah, they don't because life is just too busy.
Literally, something could get passed tomorrow that could affect everyday life, and
people
wouldn't
know
about it.
They wouldn't know until they get arrested for violating a law.
There's a lot of news. Like, I mean, we've talked a lot of topics today, and there's a lot of we had some knowledge that prepared us, right? Because we're researching, we're politicos, But I mean, the normal person also just doesn't have time, just because of how much and how fast it comes at you. I mean, just being informed can be a full-time job.
Yeah, it really is. Which, again, is one of the reasons for why you're seeing more Americans today actually getting their news from TikTok. Because I can pull out this app out of my phone, look it up, and there's certain people that I follow that I know always give me news, and I can, all right, okay, I got that, okay, I got that, and the next one, okay, I got that, boom, I'm informed, back in the pocket, off I go with life.
I think, well, and Brian Granger had said it when he came on. He said that the time of old media is pretty much gone. People are going to get their news from TikTok and then things like this, podcasts. We sit down. That's the reason why people are like, "Oh, your interview kills." I don't interview people. I talk to people. Yeah. We just have a conversation. We're just chit chatting. But the thing is, that's how you get to know who these people are that you're voting into office. Yeah. Like 3 hours of sitting down, 2 hours of sitting down, you're not going to know that person's ins and out, but you're going to know whether or not that person, because you start to read on things. Oh, that person kind of got irritated with that, or that person kind of started looking away, or this person they're trying to sway away from that specific thing. And that's what tells you what you need to know about somebody. Not people can get up there all day and just start talking like a crazy salesperson, tell you everything you want to hear about how I love you and all that. But the thing about it is that when you
start getting real,
when you sit down for long enough, and I'm going to bring up, different types of things and ask you about it, and you could say, no, I don't want to talk about that, but just know the minute that you said that, people are going to know.
Yeah, like I said, today I've been pretty tame.
Yeah.
This is so not the normal me. I mean, I don't know if it's because I took a nap before or what, but yeah.
Are you used to going on other people's shows?
I've done a few other podcasts before, and sometimes it's one of those, we're gonna have to censor that, right? And I'm like, what? What did I say?
Yeah,
exactly what you said. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't censor. I don't really censor anything. The only time I have been honest about this, even to the viewers, where I tell people, hey, if you want something cut out, you can let me know, and I'll cut it out. Yeah. And a lot of people have a problem with that, but the thing about it is, if you see that there's a cut somewhere in there, people are going to go, well, what they talk about it.
Yeah. But sometimes people just got to realize that it's like, sometimes it's not that it was bad. It was bad. It was one of those things where, well, shit, that was boring. Because it happens. I mean,
there'll be some boring stuff
it's unlike a CBS interview with a former vice president. Sometimes it just happens. You, especially in an interview style like this, where you're just kind of talking every now and then, you'll get a little segment where like, okay, that was a snore fest, and you want to keep people's attention. So yeah, that's going to happen. But the whole thing with mainstream media, though, the old school way of doing it, you have to be there at 5 o'clock to see the news, and people don't realize, it's 30 minutes of news. No, it's not. It's about 16 minutes spread out throughout that half hour. Yeah. And that's why so many people now can get faster, more accurate news from either watching a podcast, listening to a podcast, listening to talk radio, because you can do that on the go. Or, again, TikTok, while I'm sitting here eating a burger, I can flip through and watch this stuff and become informed.
Yeah, freaking my buddy who runs the Bay County Bad Drivers page, that shooting that happened.
Yep.
So he was the first person to get the footage of that.
I bet you more people saw that from that Facebook page than they saw from the news.
Millions.
I can almost guarantee you.
He got over 1 million views on that.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's all around the world too, but like even locally aspect.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot of friends that work at news organizations here, but that is the future of of news. Yeah. And it was really uncensored. I mean, think about it. I mean, this person starts videoing it and you saw everything happen. I mean, obviously there's some details later on that, you're going to have to get from the sheriff's office or whatever, but, I saw the event. I'm not getting a 30-second, clip with an edited little thing and not knowing what else went on. So, yeah, it's amazing how powerful social media is. Yeah. It's something I rank on politicians all the time about, and I tell them that. I'm like, you got to understand how powerful it is. I mean, look, Barron Trump told Donald Trump that. Do podcasts, do social media, get out there. And it was a huge success. I mean, he was able to reach that younger generation who watches this stuff. And like this type of a podcast, there's going to be more men that are going to watch this than women.
Well, what's crazy? Do you know what's crazy though? My views have been, I've had, if he looks at the analytics, you don't have to, but I have like more women that watch my podcast than men.
Yeah. Same with me.
14,000 views last month and there were more women. I'm like, really? Normally women hate me.
Yeah, how much time do we got to get into that? But no, I mean, the same thing. I mean, there's been a dynamic shift when it comes to women's involvement and interest in talk radio, in podcasts. I mean, it used to be, and I've had this conversation many times with people working radio. Oh, it's the old man that listens to you. No, actually, the biggest audience that I have is women. It for the most part, it's about a 54% of my audience is women. And then the rest being men, and I don't know, maybe some people who identify as something or other. But there's been a dramatic shift in how women are more involved with an interest in watching this type of content than ever before.
I think women just in general.
I'm going
over
it's
the
because
years,
of my voice, but they like it.
I think women have got more into politics than what they normally have been in.
Yeah, they have.
Because now I have rules in my household. One of the things is that I do not talk about religion or politics with women. Mm-hmm. It's not that I don't think that they're competent.
If I can get a woman to talk with me, I'll talk with her about anything.
I don't talk about politics or religion, and it's not because of me thinking that they're not competent. It's because I don't want to cross the boundary of like I said, I can't really talk 5 sentences without saying fuck.
Yeah.
And, I still am very, very, I've had some very, very just elegant, polite women that have been on this show. And, I don't use profanity. I don't talk about anything crude or anything like that. I'm professional, and I talk to them like I would to my own mother. Mm-hmm. And that I respect women. I put them higher than men. Sorry, that's just the way they do. If that's a problem, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. That's how I was brought up. That's how it works. But
respecting women? How dare you?
Oh yeah, I know. No, that's
next thing you're going to tell me that you're against transgenders playing in women's sports. Oh, the atrocity! How did I agree to do this show?
Thinking about wraps it up.
On that note,
get
the hell out of here.
I was going to say I have one more because you kind of touched on it.
Yeah.
When obviously the landscape's changed with just how rapid technology's evolved, right? And you had said that Barron had to tell Trump, like, hey, you need to do these things. And so this is kind of more just on how old our politicians are, that they didn't grow up with this stuff, and they don't even really know it. Like there was Dianne Feinstein, Mitch McConnell, Pelosi. You could go down a whole list. But I remember like when the first TikTok ban was being proposed,
don't tell me you're going to go down to that hearing.
No, it was the
most embarrassing thing ever.
It was people making fun of them on
the hearing where they brought in the CEO of TikTok to talk about, banning it and everything. And, you had the guy that's saying, so now does TikTok use the modem? Does it like get into the modem? I had Congressman Dunn on my show, which I love Congressman Dunn. He and I are friends. And even he had some prepared questions where I even had to look at him and go, who the fuck prepared you people? I'm like, that was the most unintelligent, embarrassing hearing I've ever seen in Washington. The ignorance that rolled out of every single person's mouth who had no idea about technology, had no understanding about any of this stuff. And, you do have a lot of these outdated politicians who don't understand it. It's like they come out and they start telling us things. It's like, time out, hang on. I'm pretty sure right here I can pull up the YouTube video. You want to see it? Of you saying opposite. So they don't get it. And I think our politicians need to get with technology.
Yeah, because there was like the trends. So people were making fun of them on, these old people coming up, and you're like you said, like, oh, does it use the modem? It was like, so there's the technology, but then there's the what content is there? Where they're like people are going on TikTok, like, I got my fingers crossed, like, let's make a bingo card of the dumb shit, or because the trends, right? Where it's like they think kind of. I'm trying to think of how to word this, and Ron, you might have to just either beat me out or I'll let you know, where it's the things that are in the adult world where it's like, oh, that's a double meaning or entendre for something that might be pornographic, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna talk about this, and you're a congressman. You should have probably known not to say that just because of what it was, the memes that are on there, and then the algorithms where they're like, I'm seeing all this on my TikTok feed, and people are like, that's because you interact with it, and you kind of just snitched on yourself.
The embarrassing thing is, why am I seeing all of these gay dances? I don't know, buddy. What are you looking up on the internet? It's like, I mean, I fully admit that I on average spend about 40 hours a week on social media. I have broken the TikTok algorithm. Like, TikTok doesn't even know what the hell to throw at me. They're like, he's logged in again, just throw the world at him.
Looking at puppies.
Yeah, I got everything from, like, there'll be a puppy video to a cooking video to an airplane video to a shooting video to a dance thing, a cheerleading thing, a political thing. I mean, it's just like, because I'm that idiot that goes, oh, what were we talking about? Hang on a second, let me Google that. Oh, there was a video about, did you hear that? No, let me find it. So my algorithm is screwed, but yeah, you're so right. It's like these politicians will be like, I don't understand why I keep seeing all these things about the homosexual stuff. It's like, who wants to tell them?
Yeah, yeah, how it works is your algorithm, dude.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there was that. I mean, did you have one for TikTok? Because I got two more that are kind of in the same vein of just the technology that did it. But I mean, did you have one, Ron? I didn't want to cut you off if you had a TikTok thing with these old people.
TikTok thing. I was about to ask you about Tucker Carlson, though.
Ooh, the Tucker Carlson, Dan Crenshaw?
Yeah.
What an idiot.
Well, I guess I'll lean into that because it goes into my one. So I'll skip this AI one and go into, I mean, accountability. I think it was, we saw it with, and it's kind of in meme form. So RFK confirmation hearing, right? Where Bernie's yelling at him and he's like, well, you took money from big pharma and stuff. He's like, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. Just one person. And people are like, start making a picture and it's like NASCAR or the stock market where it's like, here's this donor and how much money. And to where it goes into the Dan Crenshaw, Tucker Carlson thing where it's, you said it on video, man. Like, we can just pull that up on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't understand why our politicians don't understand that this technology is out there. And it's not like it's new. I mean, YouTube's been around for 20-something years now. Yeah. I mean, come on, get with it. I mean, if you're, and I guess there's probably a problem with our politicians where if they don't know anything about the culture, something as big as YouTube and what YouTube actually is and what it presents and what people are doing to get their information, maybe you shouldn't be in Congress. I mean, I can understand that, you
mean you need to have a knowledge of what you're talking about?
You might want to know a little bit about culture.
Okay.
I'm just throwing this one out there. I mean, sure, you may know what it is that you did always before, but you got to understand culture and what the rest of the world does. And it's like so many of us sit back and go, did they really just say that? It's like, they act as if we're still in the days of the newspaper where you have to wait until the 5 o'clock edition comes out to find out what was in there. And if I told them not to say it, it won't be in there. It's like, well, we just had an hour-long video of you saying stuff and it's right there. No, I didn't say it. It's like, we got the video, dummy. So I don't understand what's wrong with our politicians. They're so out of touch.
I'm waiting for it wouldn't necessarily be CNN, but one of those, broadcasting ones, and it could be against a Republican or Democrat, but they're going to say that, right? Where it's I didn't say that. And they're like, can we pull up that video? And it's them as a talking head next to their own video of where they say it. And I was like, do you want to respond to your words?
Yeah, I've seen it happen a few times, but it doesn't happen enough. It needs to be more. I mean, they just need to understand what technology is. And I think the Barron Trump thing was a big awakening for the Republican Party because, like I said before, I kept telling them, I was like, you've got to get on social media. You got to go after Gen Z. And they were like, no, we got our plans and we've got a person that we have for our social media influencer. It's like, dear God, it's like, and they just never used him. I mean, like Bo Loudon, who's Barron Trump's friend, best friend, little tiny guy. Actually, he may not be little tiny. It's just Barron's so tall, it's hard to tell the difference. But, he has more followers on his social media than a lot of these idiot propagandists on the left. And they don't use Bo. I mean, this is one of those things that they really should have used Bo more when it comes to getting the Republican message out there. And they don't do it. And there's so many great content creators that are out there that are doing a lot of conservative content. that the Republicans never get involved with. They never call him and invite him. They never, offer to be part of the content. Nothing. They just dismiss him as if it's nothing. Yet the Democrat side does that all the time. I mean, like
Harry Sisson, right? And David Hogg is now the vice chair.
But the news under the desk or under the desk news or whatever the hell it was that girl does, where Obama came in and did a video with her. It's like, that's the type of stuff that they do, and it's a winning message. It sucks, but they win with the message. And the Republicans are just, they don't know how to do it. They're so out of touch.
And I mean, there's the social media stuff now, but we're seeing a new trend with how, AI hit the first chat GPT at the beginning of 2023, I think. It was like December 2022, really got public release 2023. But there's a trend of older people having trouble to identify, say, AI photos. So now they're easily manipulated by this. And these people we've been talking about and joking about against, say, TikTok, and just that accountability of, hey, I have a cell phone video of you saying this, are voting on bills for AI and deep fakes and things, right?
AI technology has gotten so much better. And, a perfect example of that is, I don't know if you guys saw the Ron DeSantis getting out of the presidential election, fake AI. Did you ever see that?
I saw his campaign tried to use AI.
This particular one, and it actually gained a little bit of traction, and it was after a debate where Donald Trump handed him his ass. But it comes out, and it was as if it was like a Max Headroom style AI. It was horrible. It was him sitting at the governor's desk, and it was very shaky audio, very shaky video. And people were like, because he basically went off and said, hey, I got my ass handed to me by Donald Trump, and I'm getting out of this because I'm a bitch boy. So I'm quitting this, and I'm not going to be in it anymore. And this was like months before he actually got out of the presidential campaign. But it was a horrible, horrible AI, and people bought it. So it makes you wonder with some of the good stuff and the people.
Well, the new ones of Donald Jr., right? That the left's been passing around. Just this last week, trying to say he was a Russian puppet again, right? Something goofy.
I don't know if you ever saw this is absolutely my favorite during the entire campaign. It was an AI thing where it was done with, it was Trump, Obama, Biden, Clinton, Bush. And it was done in first-person shooter kind of video game stuff.
Those were so good.
They were hilarious. They were clearly AI. Clearly AI. But those were freaking hilarious. But I warned, in the beginning of the election season, I was like, we have to watch out for what they will use with AI because, it's so easy to influence people. Because, again, when you're looking at your phone real quickly and you see something, it's like, oh, my God, that must be what it is. Because people don't have enough time to really research it.
Yeah, a lot of people had that argument that was going on the entire time that Biden was in office, that they were doing deep fakes. Like when he got the vaccine.
Yeah. Yeah.
When he did it up there on stage, that whole thing, I'm getting my vaccine, so should everybody else. Yeah. They're trying to say that was like a studio and that was a deep fake. It actually wasn't him at all. But I think they had a stunt double for him. I know I'm one of those crazy...
call me crazy. I don't...
foil hat guys, but...
You ever see the movie Dave?
Yeah.
I think we just experienced 4 years of that. I have a weird feeling like all of a sudden, out of the blue in the next couple of months, he's going to have died of a stroke or some mysterious thing, now that he's out of office, and he actually died 3.5 years ago.
He can't die right now because people are going to blame it on the vaccine.
Or they'll blame it on Trump. Trump hurt his feelings, and he died. Yeah.
And now Trump is a murderer, Trump. And he needs to go to prison for what he's done.
They should lock him up for killing Joe Biden.
I'm still mad at Trump about not putting Hillary in jail, but whatever.
You know what? That was probably a smart move on his behalf to not do that at the time. But then the Democrats were stupid and said, well, he didn't do it, so we're going to do it. I think Donald Trump, when he came out about that, he actually talked about it. And he said it would have divided the country so much more. And look at how much the country's been divided by all the attacks on Donald Trump that the Democrats did. Donald Trump was smart by not doing it. The Democrats were fucking stupid by doing it. and they've hurt their own brand so much by doing it.
I think we see that more than none right now.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the lawyer would say, right? They open the door. So I mean,
Yep. They open the door.
It's
and
on the
walked
plate
right
now.
in. Yeah. Yeah. It's horrible.
That's it.
That's it. Ready to kick me out?
Just ready to be done.